My goodness, it's the final day of the SMITE World Championship group stages. 4 teams remain and 2 spots left in the quarterfinals of the SMITE World Championship. Of course, today, yesterday, all season long here in Season 9, we've partnered with Prime Gaming to bring you at home some awesome content along with your Prime membership. And there's even more just around the corner of the SMITE World Championship. A week from today, we're going to be crowning a SMITE World Champion. And to celebrate, we've partnered with Prime to get some awesome in-game skins for all 8 of our SPL teams. You can claim them right now by scanning that QR code or going to gaming.amazon.com/smite. Unfortunately for the Valhalla Valkyries, we can fade them from the screen here, and one of the Oni Warriors and the Solar Scarabs might be faded by the end, or will be faded by the end of the day today. So thanks again to Prime. This is an awesome partnership and some really, really cool in-game skins that you can claim right now to celebrate the SMITE World Championship right around the corner. So, as we move into our day here today, the wait has just increased all weekend long. At the beginning of the weekend, we had 8 teams vying for 4 spots. Now, 2 teams have qualified, Hex Mambo and the Tartarus Titans. 4 teams remain, and they will battle in 2 best-of-5s today for 2 more spots at the SMITE World Championship. Mifflin joins me on the desk to start off our day. Miff, we finally made it. This is our last in-studio broadcast before we head on out to Texas for Worlds.
Last one for the season as well, you know. That's pretty exciting. That's
what
really
I
all
just
I
said.
got. Yeah, I mean, that's it. You're right. You nailed it, in fact.
It's been a long year, Miff. It's worn you down.
It's been a long week, man.
It's been a long weekend for sure. And you'll see just how long it's been. Group A has had plenty of twists and turns. The Titans don't drop a set all weekend long, and they have qualified for the SMITE World Championship after a 3-1 win yesterday over the Eldritch Hounds. And what a run the Ravens have started to go on. They lose to the Titans earlier on in the weekend in a best-of-3, but then beat the Valkyries 2-0, and now advance to the first match of the day, the best-of-5 up against the Eldritch Hounds. Miff, these 2 SEC teams, one of the 2, they're moving on. One of the 2 is going home, and it's North American 1 seed, EU number 2 seed. Plenty of drama here in Group A.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. Anytime the regions get to interact, it's so interesting. I know there's, you can kind of say SPL, North American, EU, SEC,
Yeah.
right? But I think this is the truest parallel, and
Right.
I'm really excited to see these 2 just largely varying ideologies on how to play the game start to clash heads.
And we'll talk a bit more about the matchup here in a moment. Let's see what's happening in Group B, because we're in the exact same spot over in Group B, except the final match for this group is 2 SPL teams, because Hex Mambo has gone on quite a run here this weekend. They beat the Solar Scarabs in their first matchup 2-1, beat the Oni Warriors yesterday 3-1 in their qualification match. So Hex Mambo, the first of 2 teams to move to the SMITE World Championships from Group B. And so that leaves the Oni Warriors and the Solar Scarabs fighting 2 SPL teams with only 1 spot remaining in the SMITE World Championship. So one goes on, one goes home. Their year is over. And that'll be our second best-of-5 of the day. Cannot wait to watch that one either. And so we've really got, I think, 2 closely matched teams in both of our matchups here, Miff. You got the 2 very, very hot SEC teams that are playing very effectively right now, and you got the SPL teams who dropped to Hex Mambo in our second best-of-5 of the day. And so I think the storylines are kind of running parallel, just 2 different leagues. And so looking at our first matchup here, Miff, it's the Eldritch Hounds versus the Highland Ravens. And the Eldritch Hounds dominate the North American SEC all year long, really. Highland Ravens, they're battling with Hex Mambo. They're able to beat most of the other teams they play against, but Hex Mambo gives them some trouble. But it feels like the Ravens really starting to play a confident brand of SMITE this weekend.
Yeah, they just look so clean. They're playing up to their competition and then even surpassing them every single time. I love what we've seen from the Highland Ravens. I think, if anything, they've had to adapt more so than Hex Mambo. Feels like Hex Mambo were able to keep their style from the regular phase. The Ravens, they came in and they've just played right on up, even making some shift-ups in some of those God pools as well. I'm excited to see what we bring today.
Yeah, adapt may be the key word here for the Highland Ravens.
Hate that.
Well, you hated that?
I hate that.
Was that was not intentional.
You can ask him. All right, he's going to say it's overplayed.
Is it?
Absolutely.
You played it, and I picked it up. I'm blaming you for that one, Miff. Adapting. He's been there, he's done that in the SMITE World Championship, trying to get back with his team here, the Highland Ravens. Also standing by with J-Mac for the pregame interview.
Yeah, one final matchup now for Adapting and the Highland Ravens to try and make it to the SMITE World Championship. Adapting, thanks for coming by for the pregame interview. Tell me what's kind of going through the minds of your teammates right now. Again, it's one final best-of-5 matchup. You win this one, you guys are at the World Championships. You lose, season's over. What's kind of the talk going around the booth?
I think we're really confident going into these guys. I mean, obviously they're a really good team, and we have a lot of respect for them, but also we feel like we match well into them, and we feel like we have like pretty good idea of how to draft. So,
yeah. So you guys were able to find your win over Valhalla Valkyries just prior to that to be able to get to this position here, a pretty dominating win in that regard. But kind of talking about the Eldritch Hounds, it's a storyline that we've been following with this team all season long. Is that so far there hasn't been a single North American SCC team that's been able to find a win on them. Do you think that you might be the first SCC team in general to be able to find a win over this team?
sure hope so. I mean, I think they're a really good team, but I feel like if we're playing our best, like we kind of have been the past few days, I think that we're gonna take them down.
And so kind of looking at your direct opposition in the jungle, Oathhh is a player who has kind of changed up his dynamic in the jungle as the years gone on. He used to play very hyper carry style of gods. Now he's moved into kind of being a little bit of a facilitator. Whenever you go up against a player like Oathhh, and do you really feel that he's kind of like maybe the big threat on this team that your team might have to try and deal with?
Honestly, I'm not that worried about him. I feel like, I'm the better jungler at the end of the day. I've been jungling against Johnny, so this is piece of cake.
Fair enough. I mean, going against Johnny, seeing the performance that he's had, even just the storied career that you've had so far in the SMITE Pro League. But looking over at this Eldritch Hounds team, where do you think is maybe the spot that your team needs to focus out, whether it be in the drafts or on field? Who's that player that you think that you have to kind of target out to be able to find that win?
I think it's just coming in with a good draft where we feel like we're comfortable, throughout the early game and not having to pay too much on the back foot. And I think just making sure that they don't get away with like too many comfort picks.
Mm-hmm. Now, one final question for you, Adapting. It's best of 5 set. Could go all 5. Could go 3. What's your call for the win for your team here?
I want to say 3-0, but I feel like let's realistically probably 3-1, 3-2 our favor.
Well, we'll see how you do. Adapting, thanks for coming by for the interview. I'll let you get back with the team. Good luck in your matchup, and we'll throw it back to the desk.
A cool, calm, and collected Adapting. It's a scary Adapting, and you can tell that this team, the Highland Ravens, are playing with some confidence this morning, Miff. They're ice cold in the booth, according to Adapting and according to J-Mac, and really feels like a team that believes that they can finally deal a loss to this Eldritch Hounds team.
When I think of Adapting now, it's that character in a story that has already completed his quest, right? He's
right.
already been the protagonist once before, had his hero's journey, he's done it all.
But he's been called back into action.
He's been called back into action to lead the rookies on to the promised land. He's brought himself up with a phenomenal team of a lot of new talent as well. I mean, Cozy, Vaporish, Sarpe, Angry, all these guys still establishing themselves or trying to reach the heights that he already has. It's like a max level character in Skyrim running side quests, right? That's what I think of when I think of Adapting.
I do think he's enjoying the competition, though, and it's a threatening team to go up against in the Eldritch Hounds. Now, Adapting didn't seem too worried about the player on your screen, Oathhh. However, all year long we've talked about Oathhh and the talent that he has and expectations. And remember, the Eldritch Hounds, specifically Oathhh, I think that there were some looks and, maybe play SPL 1 week, potentially joining some teams, but they chose to stick together as a team for moments like this. They believe that as a unit, they could qualify to the SMITE World Championships. And a lot of it's got to run through the jungle here, Miff. I mean, Adapting v. Oathhh is maybe one of the most electric jungle matchups we'll get here this weekend.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. The only concern I have for Oathhh is that he generally plays a bit differently on land. When you watch him in the regular phase, it's hyper-aggression, I'll 1v2, I'll invade the speed buff, I'll run at the red on my own. And for the most part, it just works because he's incredibly talented at pressing his buttons, one of the most mechanical players in the North American SCC. But when we get to land, it's a bit slower, a bit more subdued, and that could come back to bite the Hounds in that they've spent an entire year playing around one style, and then sometimes they get the other. That said, this week, a lot of those nerves that I associate with that slower style have faded from Oathhh. He really has started to look a lot more comfortable. at times absolutely dominating matches, but at others struggling to find his footing. And I think that might be what Adapting was talking about. It's not necessarily we need to target these players, but if you can get them off their favorite picks, they start to look a little bit worse. For example, Oathhh forced into the Naja in his most recent set. Not the best performance from him.
I don't think I can understate or overstate maybe how excited I am for Coast versus Dude Man Bro, because these are two SEC 80 carries that have also
A lot of taunts in that lane.
lots of taunts in that lane. Oh God, I hope we're seeing.
We're gonna have to mute it. We're gonna have to mute
We're gonna have to mute the volume. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some attempted 1v1s in that lane. I actually think, and we'll move into picks and bans here in a moment, like Donzo Burrow has been really, really important for Dude Man Bro. It's been a lot of Cern and Ishtar for VaporishCoast. It's two players that, I don't know, have such an energy and a spirit about them in that duo lane. I wouldn't be surprised if that's some emphasis. And picks and bans for game number 1. We've got a best of 5, winner take all. Loser goes home. The SMITE World Championship playing next weekend. That's your prize for winning up against a very, very strong opposition here today. We'll jump right into it. Baba Yaga banned out by the Highland Ravens. Amaterasu follows with a tier ban over on the other side. And so we have got plenty of individual matchups to be excited about here, Myth. Talked about jungle, talked about ADC. Ducky for the Eldritch Hounds has been hyper important, just as Cxnnahh has been for the Ravens.
I'm really concerned now for the Hounds because there's one thing that every single team that has played the Ravens over the last 4 months has agreed upon, and it's that your first ban is Thor. Don't let Adapting get his favorite pick.
It could be third ban.
Could be, and I'm hoping it is, because I think it is likely that the Ravens would go towards it in first slot.
Wow.
Bellona banned out. Adapting could take it for himself. Both junglers in this game, very capable, very willing, and very apt to go towards the Thor. Could still go unpicked, but I think what a statement it would be to have the king on his favorite.
Yeah, and especially, Adapting, as I mentioned earlier on, seems confident, right? And not super worried or shaken in that interview. But if you get maybe your highest comfort pick of all time in game number 1 of this best of 5 set, that probably increases the vibes a bit to start off this set. And so it'll be the Eldritch Hounds in first pick.
Blades of light.
Ishtar
Smite
ends
my
up being
foes.
their selection. So now the Highland Ravens still the opportunity to pick up that Thor for their jungler. But the Hounds will give Ishtar over to Dude Man Bro. And again, that's also it's a pick for Dude Man Bro, but also a slight ban against VaporishCoast, who has really loved the Ishtar in the past. Maui, though, Myth, 12 games played over the course of the weekend, nearing 100% pick ban rate, and it is indeed the Thor. First time this weekend for the Ravens. First time for Adapting here in Game 1.
It's his most played god throughout the regular season as well. I mean, this is a pick that has been associated with him for an incredibly long time. I mean, he's got skins in the game that people say that's the Adapting skin, and it's got nothing to do with them legitimately.
Yep.
It's just that he had played it so often at the highest level and looked so good on it that a lot of the pro players just agreed that, hey, that's his, we're going to stop using it. So scary stuff here. Expect high pressure, expect a lot of global rotations. Loves to play around those greater scorpions. That's something I've noticed from the Highland Ravens, especially with Ratatasker and Thor. When they get that global presence, they love to take that fight on first rotation of greater scorpion, want to force the engagement. And now on the other side for the Hounds, it's two targets that already struggle up against the Thor. Ishtar and Vulcan both just don't have great answers to the wall, aren't exactly the most mobile, don't have any way to remove themselves from the playfield, no standard leap, so even if you are using backfire or the dash from Ishtar to try and avoid the Anvil of Dawn, Adapting's got likely over 10,000 hours on this pick. He's going to land it either way.
Wasn't going to be surprised if we saw some Oathhh bans here from the Highland Ravens. Exactly what we get. Lancelot and Naja both take a seat. King Arthur, haven't seen much King Arthur, but still maybe a worthwhile ban against Cxnnahh, who's played that pick many, many times. Guan Yu left open. 75% win rate for Guan Yu across 4 games. So pretty low on the pick ban chart, however, has found decent amount of success. Initiation, Myth, already feels good here for the Highland Ravens between a Maui, a Guan Yu, and a Thor. Just searching for a mage to round out that composition. Over on the other side, though, I mean, you have a Terra if you're the Eldritch Hounds, but between jungle and solo lane now, you're hoping to shore up some of that team fight.
The nature of the damage from the Ravens will make Terra's ultimate a bit easier to proc, especially the defensive version, because it's tick damage from Berserker's Barrage or tick damage from Talu Assault. Every single time Terra ults her allies, they will get that burst heal, which is phenomenal against a dive composition. So the Ravens will have to work a little bit harder to secure some of those engagements. And then when you look elsewhere, you got pressure from the Ishtar. Awilix can bring that fight early on as well. The Hounds certainly won't roll over throughout the early. It's whether or not they can actually leverage it into objectives. When I see teams with Vulcan and Ishtar together, I'm really concerned about the Gold Fury. The burn potential, the secure, they've got it both.
Now, when the Eldritch Hounds played the Tartarus Titans, they won game 1. That was an Awilix game for Oathhh.
Really?
Haven't seen Sun Wukong in a little while, but you're going to see it here in game 1 for the Eldritch Hounds. What do we always say about Sun Wukong? Really good at
living. Really good at living.
What else is he good at here for the Hounds?
You know, with some of the itemization changes, Manicore Spike World, you know, we can get the Hammer Tree as well. Sun Wukong might not be in an awful spot. We've seen Deathwalker pretty consistently pick up that Soul Eater. That's something that Sun Wukong leverages greatly, just so much sustain from the Magic Cudgel. So I'm not as much of a hater as the last time we had seen Ducky piloting this pick.
Sure.
It was maybe not so good back then, but nowadays I think certainly has some backline disruption, decent matchup into the Guan Yu, might even force out the Warrior's Will Max instead of the Talu Assault. But what it really brings in the team fight is the ability to get into the backline, jump onto a mage, and say, hey, you just can't enjoy the game. And if you try and turn and burn, that's when that really good at living comes into play.
Right.
Just get up into the Somersault Cloud, hang out, heal up, and then fly out as a bird.
And I think that's going to be so important for Ducky specifically, because think about what the Titans did against the Eldritch Hounds just yesterday in their set. Where once they limited Ducky, there were a couple of games in a row where they just chose Ducky to be the target, and Ducky was not able to disrupt the backline, and the Eldritch Hounds looked completely different. So a pick that can still do some disruption, but also maybe has an easier time of living, might help shore up some of those issues if the Highland Ravens, if adapting, end up choosing the solo lane.
This Tiamat is something that Angry has played a lot during the regular season. It's one of his most picked, I believe his third most played god. But when we see him on LAN, it is still worth noting that he's not playing from studio. He's playing on pretty large ping.
Yep.
Primordial Onslaught is very difficult to land in situations like that, which is why I think we haven't seen him play the Tiamat so far this week. But with the bans as they are, the Agni was a pretty consistent fallback. Baba Yaga for the majority of his games as well. You know, take those away, has to get on something comfortable. Goes back to the Tiamat. Brings a lot of ranged artillery damage, but it's going to be very high execution. I hope that he's still capable of playing it at the level that we had seen from him.
Man, and that's another lane matchup here that we haven't really talked about much. Crimson has been amazing for the Eldritch Hounds throughout the year this year. Angry has been so important to the win conditions of the Highland Ravens. Now we get to watch those two battle it out. Honestly, if I think holistically, these are two very evenly matched teams, and it's one of those games where I go in, and you just try to assess what type of SMITE they've been playing this weekend, because on paper, one of the most overused sayings when analyzing two teams, these are very, very closely matched up squads, and in the individual matchups, be it solo, jungle, mid, AD carry, or support, are all going to sway on picks and bans and who ends up showing up here today. And so, you know, Thor, I think, automatically gives the Ravens a little bit of a boost here for adapting. It's one of his best picks of all time. He's won world championships with it. Is that enough, do you think, to give the Ravens the ability to control this early game, control the mid game, and start to build a lead?
If it were just the Thor, I might say no. If it were just Thor and adapting, I might say yes, but I'd still probably lean on the side of no. But when I look at the composition as a whole, I love what the Ravens have got there. It's non-committal initiation from the Maui. It's phenomenal dive from the Guan Yu, chase down potential from the Thor, a backline that can peel for each other, which is going to be very difficult for the dive of the Hounds to execute on. If Cern and Tiamat are playing around each other, I mean, you got to burn through a whole lot of resources before you see pay dirt.
If we've broken it down about as well as we can, let's delay no further. Eldritch Hounds, Highland Ravens, winner take all. Game 1 with J-Mac and Trelly.
Thank you so much. It is an SCC versus SCC matchup to see who's going to Worlds. Typically, when we get to these kind of events, Trelly, when we see the SCC facing against each other, It's for elimination, for that last breath chance to go to a qualifier. This time, it's to send one of them there. We are guaranteed to have 2 SEC teams at the SMITE World Championship after this set today. Will it be the Eldritch Hounds? Will it be the Highland Ravens? And remember, Charlie, the Hounds are undefeated against SEC teams, at least in their region. We'll see maybe if the Highland Ravens could be the first team in that division of play to be able to deliver a loss to the Hounds.
Yeah, and what a composition they're going for, right? To try to keep their chances alive. I mean, it is not going to be easy. They have Adapting Thor they have to worry about. Oathhh went for the Awilix, a pick that he had a lot of success on. You got a lot of knockups to try and facilitate this Awilix. I think that's why Ducky went to this Wukong, but look at the build. Going a Bluestone start, more than likely into that Rune Forge. That's usually what we've been seeing. And the Blink. No CC immunity. You better be channeling that Somersault Cloud when you realize Adapting's up in the sky, or you're going to have some troubles. And Cxnnahh isn't going to care too much about the damage from the Wukong, depending on if Oathhh can make it over there. Lots of knockup immunity and CC immunity built into Guan's kit. I'm not seeing too much reason to look over towards solo lane unless Cxnnahh overcommits and uses that ultimate to try and bait out something from Ducky.
Good stun by Quig to start things out. A lot of poke to the support of the Eldritch Hounds. There's an attempted invade by both the supports, but neither of them come successful. Double stun by Cozyx, a pull back onto Quig. Puts him in dangerous waters, a dash in,
Wow.
and VaporishCoast, the kid does it! Once again, the Highland Ravens carry comes up with first blood to start this game out.
Wow, that is unfortunate there for the Eldritch Hounds. Thought they had more pressure off the back of the Ishtar, but had not hit level 2. And Cernunnos can be so deadly if you cancel that dash immediately into some auto attacks. Those glaives really do start to add up, and getting that kill on the coast, you got to feel good for the Highland Ravens. He has the ability to just take over a game. This Cernunnos could rotate out or just dominate the lane from his own lane, and it really will start to add up. I think that's a great start for the Ravens.
Damage between the junglers. Double tap from Adapting. No setup needed for that one. As he slams the damage up against Oathhh. Meditation by Quig. Used on the opposite side of the map over in the dual lane. Just to keep him and Dudeman Bro alive. Because this poke, this onslaught of damage that's been coming from Coast and Cozyx has now netted them to be the ability to go ahead and take not just the Scepter, but the left side Harpy camps and keep up that pressure in dual lane. So now if you're Oathhh in this situation, Charlie, your dual lane is just taking a spill. You see that Coast and Cozyx are pretty much at guaranteed attempt to invade purple every time. If you're Oathhh, are you making a rotation over here to try and alleviate some of this pressure?
I mean, definitely not. Quig is a Terra pre-level 3, which means Quig is not a real character. There is just nothing that he's going to do to try and help out with the damage. Cozyx essentially runs this lane for the time being. That's the reason we saw that pressure over on the left side of the map. So you have to imagine right side of the map is what's going to be looking, right? You think that Oathhh is just going to be trying to play through Ducky. I think that's the better way to play this game as is. Ducky has been having a fantastic set pretty much through the entirety of this tournament. And since Quig got off to a bad start, and Dudeman Bro's not going to be able to help out too much until maybe level 5, I think a better look for Oathhh to be looking towards the right side of the map.
We'll see if Oathhh does make that rotation over that direction. Now, we look at both sides of the map here. Quig has some healing for the team on the Eldritch Hounds, Cxnnahh as well on the Guan Yu. Though coming in different kind of bursts of heal. Typically Terra's heal from that monolith is most often used for CC unless you're going for these long extended sieges. Really it's that ultimate where you get it. Or Cxnnahh, depending on how his build goes, how much CDR pops through. We're looking at every 5-6 seconds popping a couple hundred HP to the rest of the team. So I gotta imagine anti-heal, probably the name of the game for at least a couple of players in this team. Maybe not a full commit to 3-4 players grabbing it, but gotta imagine at least maybe for these mages, maybe for these junglers, picking up some kind of anti-heal to deal with this.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Brawler's Beat Stick is just great on Thor. Even if you're not getting the anti-heal, it's just a good item. The stats help out a ton. And Adapting still has not went back to base. I want to see him finish that first item and then immediately start looking for these Anvil of Dawns, whether that be over to solo lane. Again, Ducky does not have the beads. It actually looks like Ducky might be getting targeted right now in the solo lane. And he is.
Dunked down by Adapting and Cxnnahh. They need a lot more, though. That extra HP from Ducky helps him live. Cozyx able to swing away on the opposite side of the map because Oathhh has made his jump in, but doesn't like to use that ult to pull Cozyx back in. So the dual lane will be live for the Highland Ravens and the solo lane for Ducky on the Eldritch Hounds. He will live as well.
Yeah, you got to think if Adapting went back and spent that 1,600 gold, maybe you got a better chance at burning through Ducky there. Kana unfortunately wasn't able to chain stun with the cavalry charge, but it's difficult to do. DR really does start to stack up after a few of those Thor stuns. So not going to net anything over on the right side. Ducky gets to get his own blue buff, and Adapting's ultimate is down. At the very least, Ducky doesn't have Somersault Cloud, so you could look to get aggressive with just the wall. That could be disastrous for a Wukong. But I don't think that Oathh is looking towards the right side of the map anymore, realizing that, you know, Ducky doesn't have ult, probably won't be able to follow up too much, and this Guan has a full breastplate. Kana should be pretty safe for the time being. You saw that attempted gank on the left side of the map, but no relics dropped. The beads are available for Cozyx and VaporishCoast. Not going to have any free pulls for this Awilix.
I wonder where Angry's build is going to go this game. Because typically for a lot of these mages in mid, we've been seeing the Book of Thoth started up, occasionally the Warlock staff, depending on how some things go. And with a 1,300 gold lead for the Highland Ravens off a single kill, could allow for these guys to go just about anywhere. But Angry hasn't started for a stacking item. Instead, he's elected towards maybe a Charon's coin. We've even seen a couple of times, though, things like Chronos Pendant has made its way into first slot for a couple of mages.
Yeah, I could see it getting a bit of value, especially if you want to use the lizards early, but stacking Charon's coin is also something that some of these mid laners have gone to. You're not going to get more value out of Book of Thoth, but Adapting once again goes to the sky. Ducky definitely heard that one, and he's just going to blink it so easily, yeah. I think Adapting was a little bit too close to Fire Giant, and Ducky was hyper aware this time around. Said, hey, wait a second, you ulted me last time, got close to a kill, now you've got full Jotun's Wrath. Probably should position myself a bit towards the tower, and you'll always be able to reaction blink that ult if you know it's coming. So good plays by Ducky, and now the Eldritch Hounds don't have to worry. They don't have to be looking towards the sky wondering where Adapting is for at least the next couple minutes. Well, seconds.
They will have to just keep their eyes on Quig as well, who's been rotating a lot between the left side and the mid lane. Just see if he can find a pull on anybody. Now level 7 has that Gauntlet of Thieves starting to stack up, and it was a Charon's coin by Angry going in towards penetration now. As we've been seeing Divine Ruin, the most usual call for the mid lane mage. It's good for stats in general, but also good into anti-heal we talked a little bit about earlier. So as this kind of slower early game has gone through, we've only had the single pick on the enemy support so far. That's at least been able to allow Quig to get or I should say Cozyx to get a small lead in that support role, about a 2,000 gold lead that's come from that total for the Ravens. Does this composition get better for the Eldritch Hounds as the game goes on, or does the scales tip a little bit more towards the Ravens for late game?
It definitely is difficult to execute on Awilix as the game goes on, unless Ducky is just blanking in, hitting that Ox form, and setting up for you. Because, sure, you could just pre-ult, blink in, do as much damage as possible, but Adapting has that Anvil of Dawn. He's got the wall. You're going to have to save your beads if you want to try and get aggressive. So I don't think the Hounds are too upset about making it to late game, but they would prefer to have a lead at this point. You can tell since their duo lane got stuffed a bit early, and since VaporishCoast got off to that good start, there hasn't been too much aggression on the left side of the map. Maybe a rotation over, though. Cozyx leaps away, and here comes Oathh on Suku.
Does get a stun on Quig from landing from the solar swing, though. And that seems that was just enough to slow down the pressure of the Eldritch Hounds. But Adapting spending so much time on the right side of the map this game hasn't really affected Kana too much. Has allowed him to, in fact, be able to just kind of coast through this lane, no problem. So I wonder if Adapting will maybe mix things up as the game goes on, now that he's established a bit of a lead for Kana, now that he's given him some of that luxury on that side of the map. You think Adapting shifts his attention maybe towards mid or dual lane?
He definitely has the ability to. I mean, Vulcan, not a great matchup into the Thor. You know, the knock-up immunity in the spin is going to make sure that Meatball is not displacing you as long as Adapting times it well, and he's the king for a reason. He'll be able to. And the wall really does shut down a lot of what Vulcan wants to do juking-wise. You know, one of the best things about his kit is you can be faster than most people, use your abilities to kite around and not get hit. But once you get hit by that wall, you're sort of locked in place. So he has that ability, but Adapting is really trying to get Kana ahead. Wants this Guan Yu to be able to make impactful rotations, and honestly, more so wants Ducky not to be able to do that. So once the second ult didn't get net in a kill, I think Adapting lost some faith in that ult on the right side of the map. It's probably saving for objectives, though. Pyromancer spawns in about 40 seconds. That could be where the next form of aggression comes through. We see a grouping already. Cxnnahh made his way over to mid.
4v4. Hunter's not present. They're battling over a purple buff. And the tornado comes out from Angry. Pull onto one, but immediately there's a triple stun on the backside. Vulcan comes through, but it doesn't do anything. It's Angry to strike first kill of the fight and a second one now. For the EU SCC, 3-0 up 2 in just this team fight alone. And Ducky and Crimson, still near full HP, will walk away from this engagement.
Yeah, I guess Oathhh just thought he was dead, and there was no reason to use beads there. VaporishCoast 1v2ing at the red buff until Cozyx shows up. Some good damage from Dude Man Bro. You'd think that would deter this invade, but Cozyx knows that Angry's on the way. And this Tiamat could just eat the buff. They want to try and out-damage Crimson for it. Looks like going slowly but surely, but here comes Oathhh. How long will Cozyx stick around? Not long enough to steal the buff, that's for sure. Crimson will get the credit for that one. It looks like that's going to be all. 3-0 in favor of the Ravens. These have been some impactful rotations already. Good beads onto Angry, but Oathhh can't chase this one much longer.
He'll certainly walk up and try, though, because he's got some backup, but ultimate from Angry will make sure that that one goes their way. Kozyk's not dumping. Don't even need the ultimate from Oathhh this time around. The knock-up chain CC is good from the Eldritch Hounds to lock down their first kill, but Ducky is in the middle of 2 in the backline. Adapting has the beads to get out, and Oathhh will punish the king for stepping too far forward. Now with VaporishCoast on the way, the man advantage is still in favor of the Eldritch Hounds.
Yeah, Ducky making that rotation in was huge, but now it looks like heading towards the left side. I was going to say this would be a crazy attempt at a Fire Giant. Ishtar provides some good burst damage, of course, with those shotgun auto attacks, but VaporishCoast with the Wild Hunt has his beads available and is critting. Would not have been easy to go for a pull like that. Great beads onto Angry. You know, getting that down is huge. But adapting Chung up, trying to help out, thinking he could maybe put a stop to what Ducky was doing. Did put him down. And that's going to be a good kill for Oathhh getting back in the swing of things. I was worried this Awilix likes to get off to these early starts, right? You think the aggression should be in favor of the Awilix, at least pre-level 5. Once Anvil of Dawn gets active, Thor also has that same ability. But Oathhh getting killed early on did not bode well for the early game of the Eldritch Hounds. Been able to get a kill on a Crimson and Oathhh. It's a good look, and now Gold Fury is actually being started up here, but maybe more concerned with VaporishCoast. Adapting's going right.
Looks like everybody's going right aside from Coast. Start the Pyro. Coast?
What?
The kid himself literally just walked up and intimidated 4 people
They have Vulcan
away
ult.
from a Gold Fury. And now instead, the Highland Ravens are the only ones who come up with anything. It's a Pyromancer and a Greater Scorpion for the EU team.
I mean, in hindsight, we know exactly where Adapting is. The Eldritch Hounds did not have too much vision on the right side of the map. Maybe that's the reason they dropped off it, but now this call is just worse. It's not just VaporishCoast, you have Cozyx here. You still have that same Vulcan ult. Let's see if the 50-50 works.
Ultimate from Coast, the stun goes through, the Hounds get the Gold Fury, and a pull on Quig. He might be the one that goes down, but does still have his dashes to break the monolith a little bit later than maybe what the Eldritch Hounds were wanting, but still get it nonetheless. A Gold Fury to the NASCC squad, and that'll at least help in alleviating some of this gold pressure. But Charlie, if you look at the chart, every single time that the Highland Ravens have gotten a little bit more of a lead, the Hounds have built it back, and the Hounds fall down again, and the Highland Ravens keep it going. We're still sitting at that 2,000 gold lead.
Certainly are. XP not looking too bad, though. Oathhh was able to hit 12 before Adapting, meaning he gets access to the Blink or the Aegis if he prefers, but usually with Awilix, the Blink helps you out with that engage, gets you some better opportunities to find some knockups. I think Angry is about half a level ahead of EruptCrimson, and that is going to help out as well. You're trying to get that itemization online as quickly as possible. And the duo lane is still playing catch-up. I mean, Dude Man Bro is sitting at 0-0, but Coast getting that early kill as well as going into a crit. You could tell. Dude Man Bro immediately pivoted out of that Executioner, started to build it, and then realized, if I want to box this guy, I need crit. I'm going into Shadow Steel Shuriken immediately. And that's also going to help out with that DPS. Cxnnahh forced into the Cavalry Charge. Very low mana, but just enough to get in that ultimate and get away from Oathhh.
Does escape the clutches of Oathhh and Ducky. A 1-level lead for Cxnnahh that's been established for pretty much the entirety of this game. And now pull onto Oathhh, who beats to jump away over the wall. Greater Scorpion invade will go over to the Highland Ravens as Ducky sits back and watches as that neutral objective goes down. VaporishCoast
left alone by himself to deal with Dudeman Bro. Doesn't get the invade on the purple, but still establishes that pressure to make sure to keep each other kind of at bay around that point of the map. Now we start to see some rotations to the left side. A good crit hits. Ultimate hits Dudeman Bro as well, but Coast is on the worst end of this trade. Rotation from Adapting, and Cozyx will scare the dual lane of the Eldritch Hounds away and give VaporishCoast some room to breathe.
Yeah, Adapting didn't go up into the sky, though. No, there were beads available for Dudeman Bro, despite that ult being down, so didn't want to waste it, didn't think there was any value in chasing down those kills. But now Oathhh is sitting around the duo lane, maybe hoping that Coast steps up in the meantime. Not going to happen. Coast is sitting underneath the tower unless a tower dive occurs, because that purple buff is already gone. At this point, Coast is level 15, went back, has full Executioner and the Shadow Steel. Doesn't look like the greatest opportunity to try and find a dive, so Oathhh will go back to base. He picked up that blink, and that's going to help with these team fights. Again, we haven't seen too many of that gravity surge value. We haven't seen too many pulls in. It was one on a Cozyx, got the beads, but since then, we haven't seen too much aggression from this Awilix. Ducky does get ulted just to make sure that Connor can confirm the blue buff. I imagine Pyromancer's the next time we're going to see a real scrap. Remember, the Hounds attempted to pull gold. The Highland Ravens just grabbed the Pyromancer instead. And the Hounds said, oh, wait, okay, now we can actually do it. Went back, so it's a little bit later. Pyromancer will be up first. And the Ravens would love to get some pressure towards that right side of the map.
Yeah, about another minute until that objective comes back on the map. I think the Pyromancer. The Highland Ravens continue to establish a small lead. Every little neutral farm keeps slowly adding up. 2,500 gold up for the Highland Ravens. We push over that 16-minute barrier and start getting ever closer. The chances for Fire Giant fights. A battle over an offering. I believe that one does at least go to Highland Ravens, although Trebuchet count will likely go to the Hounds. They have a full obelisk with only one offering left to go on there. Matter of fact, we haven't really seen too much value out of Trebuchet so far this weekend, Sean. I mean, we look back in the regular phase of play, Trebuchets were sent out on one side and a team would push the opposite end of the map, or even, hey, we want to do Gold Fury, Trebuchets in left, let's just force everybody on that side of the map to get a fight going, but haven't really seen that same level of play around that objective so far this weekend.
Yeah, they usually just get sent out, try and grabbing some lane pressure, but saving them for Fire Giant is really where you can get some insane amounts of value. Sending someone away during an FG fight, fighting 5v4, really cannot be understated. But that Pyromancer is back up, and already we see the full grouping. That's going to be Kanna's beads early on into this engagement. Still has the cavalry charge, so isn't going to worry too much. But here comes Dudeman Bro. He's on the rotation. He's going to get here before Coast. Could mean that the Hounds have some room to get aggressive, and Ducky's already in the back line.
In the middle of three, dashes through. Oathhh gets to the back line, adapting both relics now. Off of the Thor in the sky. Goes adapting, but he'll crash back down towards his back camps instead and head back to base. That opens up the door for the Eldritch Hounds to start at the Pyromancer. It's a fight inside the Fire Giant pit, though, between the Ravens and the Hounds. Angry, trying to stop this one. Landfall doesn't grab anybody. It's the Eldritch Hounds who get the Pyromancer, and Ducky just barely makes it up onto the somersault cloud. Able to fly away with the bird, and the Eldritch Hounds get the neutral objective.
And they'll be able to grab that and get out, barring a chase down here from the Ravens. Looks like that is the call. Head over towards Primal Fury. You got your Trebuchet. That should be spawning in on the left side of the map here for the Hounds. They have the opportunity to send it out, but already the DPS is flying. Adapting doesn't quite have that ultimate, and it looks like they realize they're not going to make it in time. That's both neutral objectives going the way of the Eldritch Hounds. All from the back of a 3K gold deficit, now down to 2K. The Hounds are closing this up slowly but surely. And you can see the XP still ahead. I mean, Kanna's got 2 levels on Ducky. Angry's got a level onto EruptCrimson. And the duo lane relatively even. The Hounds are closing in, J-Mac. They're able to find some decent opportunities. Getting both of Adapting's relics and forcing his ult defensively was all they needed to make sure that Pyromancer went down. And then the Ravens just didn't have enough time to reset and go back over to that Primal Fury. You can see the Hounds did actually send out that Trebuchet. Once again, it'll be wasted. But you got both objectives, so who really cares?
Yeah, you got both objectives. You force Coast to sit on the left side of the map and maybe try and get some pressure over on right. And with both those objectives going to the Eldritch Hounds, Charlie, you'll never guess what the gold lead's sitting at. Magic number 2,000, right back to it. For the Highland Ravens still up. over the Hounds. We'll see if the Hounds can maybe claw their way back in, find a good fight. Or maybe just try to pick on Cxnnahh, who is so far out of position. The knockup is there, pulled back in. But there's a cavalry charge for him to try and get away, adapting on the way. Oathhh has committed a lot to try and grab him, but will be fine. The wall just makes sure that Cxnnahh has enough room to get back out of this fight. But another one might be breaking out soon. As a stun on Angry gets the beads away for the Tiamat, a leap out. Cozyx swings over, but doesn't have the landing point that he's waited for. Angry is all by himself. The landfall does not grab Ducky. The ultimate from Crimson does not hit either. Adapting, finds a pick onto Oathhh. All the while, Angry is still alive throughout this entire battle. Has now stanced back into the flying form and will finally go down, but at what cost? It is 2 for 1 for the Highland Ravens.
Dude, man, bro, makes the rotation as well. Not able to do much. Still some low health targets. Remember, this all started from Cxnnahh split pushing between towers, trying to get some extra damage. And now Fire Giant's being pulled. Quig walks up, and he's in some trouble.
Does get Shane. Cavalry charge will instead find Dude Man Pro, who is slamming the health bar of Cxnnahh. He's going to need some backup from his team, and he's got it there, adapting with a great wall to set up for the Ravens. 4 for 1 at the end of the day. And Fire Giant on the mines. Ducky, no ultimate for 20 seconds, but has damage from the cudgel over the wall. Does he have the vision? Does he have the timing? Or maybe just some disruption to get in here? It's low health bar for Cxnnahh. Ducky's got one chance to steal this one away, but it seems the call is to go on to Ducky instead. He will drop down, and the Fire Giant +5 for the Highland Ravens.
That's a great play by the Ravens. I mean, you really have to just drop that. Oathhh could get aggressed upon here, does have the beads, jukes out the ultimate, and that will be the end of the chase here from the Eldritch Hounds. You know, I know a lot of teams that would just 50-50 that. Say, hey, it's just a cudgel, it's so low, and even a stun from adapting. Maybe realize, hey, we could try and burst this, but no. Perfect patience, and they waited until they were able to find the kill onto Ducky, made him commit his Ox, and after his movement's down, they realized, hey, he's got no ultimate, let's kill him, and then we can burn this Fire Giant. A good attempt, though. Ducky made really the only play he could have, unless he blinked around and sort of stalled, birded away. But Fire Giant will go the way of the Highland Ravens. They have it on all 5. There's a lot of towers to go through, pretty much everyone except for Tier 1 and right. I imagine the Hounds will try and step up and defend Tier 2s, though. They don't want to let this gold lead climb too out of hand. But adapting goes back, finishes Heartseeker. Cxnnah's able to grab that Hero's Axe. I'm not seeing who's going to be able to kill this Guan Yu, and if a good ultimate comes through from this Thor, I'm not seeing who's going to be able to survive underneath these towers.
There's an Emperor's Armor as well for Cozyx to make these sieges just that much easier. Full 5, a pull onto Coast from Oathhh? When the rest of his team is nowhere to be found, didn't even get the beads from the Hunter of the Highland Ravens. That's one initiation tool removed from the Eldritch Hounds. The Ravens will keep pushing up towards the Phoenix with no threat of an Awilix ultimate. They can eat these knockups, no problem. Tier 1 and Tier 2 in mid gone. Highland Ravens still with Fire Giant for another 2.5.
Yeah, they're going to back up here. The Hounds know there's a wave on top right, so they don't have to worry about their right side Phoenix being looked at, but the wave is pushed up and left. And I like this play from the Hounds. Their group trying to see if they can find anyone sort of lagging behind, but adapting has tons of movement. He's really the only one they could attempt to catch out. In the meantime, Tier 2 on left will be looked at. Adapting actually just hammered in behind. They have to do this Pyromancer and immediately back up. Looks like that left side Tier 2 is an afterthought, but the Phoenix could still be a target. You got Fire Giant for another minute 45, and I'm seeing confidence throughout the entirety of the Ravens.
But ultimates are back for the Eldritch Hounds. Angry leaps in up against Ducky, forces the field, but doesn't get there in time. VaporishCoast shuts down the solo laner of the Eldritch Hounds. Oathhh on the backside wants to make the hero play for the team, but he's been spotted out. They know, them being the Highland Ravens, that he is back there. He's standing on a ward, in fact. So everybody's going to keep eyes on them. Meanwhile, the rest of the team can now push into the Phoenix. Minion's about to pop through. Landfall doesn't find anybody, but a massive stun by Dude Man Pro keeps this fight interesting for the Eldritch Hounds. Adapting spots out Oathhh and forces him back to the base. Not a lot of damage has been pumped into the Phoenix just yet, Trelly. Up in the sky is adapting, dunks down on top of Oathhh. That is the immediate start to the fight. Angry finds one, adapting gets the double kill into Dia's side.
against the Eldritch Hounds. The Highland Ravens can just walk right into the throne room. It's only Ducky alive to try and stop this one. A teleport in from Cxnnahh, and the Highland Ravens will take game number 1, barring a miraculous defense by Ducky. He's got the ultimate this time, but it's only gonna buy him a few more seconds. The EU SCC will strike first in the best of 5.
As if it was ever in question, Adapting still has it. What an ultimate. That was not a massive end the game lead. That was a maybe we'll push up slowly, grab this tier 2 tower. Oh, Phoenix could be looked out, let's play it slow. And then the pick on the Ducky really opened up the doors. But if that ultimate does not hit 2 carries of the Eldritch Hounds, there's no way that game's ending. What a play from Adapting. I can't imagine they want to give him back that Thor. They thought they were ready for it, but it was dominant.
Yeah, I think Miff alluded to it perfectly in the picks and bans. We were watching going, man, there's no Thor ban just yet.
Yeah.
That's not a player that you want to give Thor to as Adapting. He has literally been playing Thor for his entire competitive career, ever since we saw him back in Season 2 of SMITE. He was dominating on this pick. So seeing him get to bring that one back out in a matchup like this makes it for an easy 25-minute win for game number 1 for the Highland Ravens to start out this best of 5, get their best foot forward to get things going. But I gotta imagine, Charlie, that as the set goes on, not a chance Thor ever makes it to Adapting's hands again.
Yeah, and I think starting off to such a rough start for the duo lane, not hitting level 2 and giving Coast that lead, really stopped a lot of what Coast wanted to do on that left side of the map.
Yeah, it's a very loud and expressive duo lane, and the Highland Ravens are the ones who come up big for game number 1. We'll see if they can keep that same momentum in game number 2 right after this break.
Time has been so hard on us, my friend. Sun goes down, but we get back again. Trouble is a silly thing, it always ends up breaking. But everything still works out in the end. No matter what they call it, no matter what they want it, they don't know there's no way they'll ever
2 strikes first over the Eldritch Hounds in North America, and it's the Highland Ravens with the win here in game number 1. A convincing, well-rounded team affair sets them up for success here in this best-of-5 set. Only 2 more wins needed for the Highland Ravens to move forward to the SMITE World Championship. And if you're feeling like celebrating early, nothing has ever gone wrong when celebrating too early. You can get your hands on the SMITE World Championship digital loot pack right now with Atlantis, Leviathans, Gilgamesh. That's a way to celebrate their World Championship late. So it's something that's already happened. You're not at risk of celebrating too early. The skin is awesome. All the other content in that pack. A few of the skins you can see here behind Gilgamesh. All of it's awesome. All of it's available right now. And a great way to prime yourself and prime your SMITE account for the SMITE World Championship. So game number 1 of this best of 5. It is over to EU and the Highland Ravens. Number 2 EU seed, by the way. My name is Dolson. Mifflin's with me. And the number 1 North American SEC team, Miff, that was hard-pressed to lose any games all year long in the SEC, now suffered a loss here in the first.
Yeah, I think it's a momentum-based thing here. First off, you let Adapting get Thor. Major fumble. I mean, a blunder, if you would. And also, VaporishCoast off to a roaring start in this set as well. That guy was absolutely dominating his lane. At one point, rotates in 1 versus 4 on Gold Fury and prevents it somehow. Fortunately, Eldritch Hounds able to pick it back up and grab it a little bit later on. But otherwise, I think it just speaks to the amount of pressure that he was able to apply against his direct lane opponent. Top to bottom, the Highland Ravens look real good. I mean, what are you going to do about any of this? When everything's coming up Ravens in a team fight like that, just really, really stifling situations. I thought Oathhh had a pretty decent bounce-back performance. Struggled a little bit the first couple of levels, but since then, around level 9, level 10, was able to match some of the pressure from adapting, but the damage had already been done, and the Highland Ravens with the lead, you're not really able to grab that one back, at least not without some mistakes, and EU don't make mistakes.
No, they don't make many mistakes, if ever, in the Highland Ravens. I actually really liked that highlight around the Fire Giant. I mean, it's such a small play. It's not the flashiest, but the communication that requires when Ducky's around the corner, it's low, to immediately stop all at the same time, kill off Ducky, and then go back to it just looks fantastic. And then a swift deicide at the end of the game. 5-1-6 for the Thor, 4-0-7 for the Cernunnos. Again, you know, you talked about it, Miff. It felt like just a great, well-rounded team composition. It also just happens to have one of the best player-god combinations of all time playing on it. Gives it that extra boost. I also look towards the dual lane. You shouted out VaporishCoast, but now first swing, first check mark in this best of 5 goes to VaporishCoast over Dude Man Bro. I imagine there's a bounce back somewhere here from Dude Man Bro. Too aggressive and wild of a player to not have some type of pop-off game here. But now it's about readjusting if you're the Eldritch Hounds. I imagine, Miff, the Thor will be talked about in picks and bans for game number 2, and you might like to see it taken away.
Yeah, I don't want to see it talked about. I don't think it should be a discussion. It should
Whoever's
be very
pressing
clear.
The buttons, I don't know who is it, the Soul Laner?
If the Soul Laner lets it through, he's let something go awry. And I think Ducky, ever the veteran, can likely sway the team's decision-making here going into bans.
Yeah, we'll see if they do. And picks and bans for game number 2. And as long as Ducky is controlling the picks and bans,
and he is,
go ahead and take it away. It'll be a Baba Yaga ban first and foremost. Just strong because angry. You know, there was angry emphasis from the Eldritch Hounds in picks and bans for game number 1. Agni got banned out at a point. Baba Yaga has been one of Angry's favorite picks so far here this weekend. Played it a few times. Once against the Titans, once against the Valkyries. At this point, might not be able to play it here in this set. Thor, unlooked at. Now, this is also something Oathhh can play, so I'm not losing my mind just yet.
They're going to first pick Ishtar. It's going to be like a run-back selection here from the Ravens.
Well, look, Ducky doesn't seem too concerned.
He should be.
Rolling thunder.
It is first pick Ishtar. I mean, a Ravens, well, they can't go back to the Maui, so that's immediately a difference.
Gaze into the mirror.
So Amaterasu instead. Rock in the Thor. We are rolling the dice once again.
It's a loaded die, my guy. He's rolling 6s nonstop.
Yeah,
I don't know.
All right, so there's 6 sides on this dice.
Yeah, and it can only land on 1.
Right. How many sides of the I guess what are the odds? I don't know. This is a really bad question. Forget I said anything. I was gonna say, how loaded is it for
Already
adapting?
forgotten.
4 out of 6 probably for adapting. You're losing 2 out of 6 games on this loaded dice, you think?
I'm thinking so.
Yeah.
Maybe more. Did you? I mean, even just the very last clip, right? The Phoenix Siege. It was
Well, that was
all
most of
Thor
it.
there.
That was most of it for adapting. I mean, I will say, it's not like adapting took the game over in the first 10 minutes,
It's
right?
time to turn this
I mean,
battle
found some
in our
pressure, a couple
favor.
of assists,
Yeah, that was Coast in the early,
Right.
for sure.
but then come team fight time, it did feel pretty good for the Thor. So we'll see. We'll see if the Eldritch Hounds end up having an answer here. For now, it is a pick for Oathhh that he has gone to a few times throughout the year here. Have not seen it since the Valkyrie set earlier on in the weekend. The Lancelot pick plus the Athena. And so a bit of initiation in the first 3 for the Hounds.
I like the top 3 from the Hounds for sure. You've got linear initiation, as you said. The Athena Confound going to be very strong against even just the individual members of the Ravens as of now. Berserker's Barrage or even the Hammer Toss from Thor, pretty easy to interrupt. If Thor is trying to escape, as so long as Athena holds on to the taunt, you really can't. So at least a slight counter matchup there. Ram can struggle a bit against those block stacks, doesn't have any real damaging abilities in the kit barring the ultimate, which means Athena should be able to initiate on him without having to concern herself too much. Otherwise, Ishtar, just tons of pressure. Didn't get to see it in the last game, but have seen it consistently enough that I'm willing to say that it is likely that DMB should be able to get something accomplished in the lane itself. Lancelot has served Oathhh very, very well. That cripple, a massive cripple from the Grand Joust, can disrupt a bit of the initiation from the Ravens, but I think it's more so having that additional movement speed and the horse stance, being able to keep up with that semi-global pressure from the Thor could help out a fair deal. Lancelot very good at that counter initiation style.
Yep.
Thor, for the most part, also pretty good at it, but will likely start the fights himself.
This is a big one for the Ravens. I imagine adapting a team leader for this squad. You know, it's not lost on him that you win this game too. You are in such a dominant position in this best of 5 set. And at that point, momentum would be heavily on your side. So you can't hold on too tight, but you got to make sure that you're playing a clean game of Smite here in game 2.
Been a while.
Huang locked in for the mid lane. Admittedly, I was like, how is it 0%? I'm so used to seeing Huang locked in, so when Huang got locked in, my brain went all fuzzy. It has been a while, Myth, and it'll be the first time this event that we see Huang. Plenty of safety.
Time to go to
Decent levels 1 through 3, 1
Yep.
through 5 can hang in there. And then later on in the game can add some burst.
Yeah, a bit slower in levels 6 through 10 compared to some of the more standard mages that we've seen, but that early game, very stifling, as is Thor's. And we saw the Ravens try and get active levels 1 through 4. Could be an opportunity once more, depending on the mid lane selection from the Hounds. You've got some more long-range, non-committal initiation. The dueling dragons at times can operate pretty similarly to things like a Maui ultimate, just don't get a wall off the tail end, but the pool in of itself, very, very valuable. Great late game scaling. You're taking a slight hit to your objective confirm, especially in the mid game, but I think Huang fits this game very well, and considering the dive potential of the Hounds, with Athena dashing in, with Lancelot running you down, Hercules running amok in the backline, having that celestial flight could buy a whole lot of time for the rest of the Ravens to start folding in on the team fight.
Well, in a game where, you know, not must win on a literal sense, but you're getting close. You don't want to have to reverse sweep for the Eldritch Hounds. Looks like Crimson's going to go back to one of his most played picks so far this year in the Merlin. Right up there with Oathhh. Played it against the Titans in a loss there in game number 3. 0-4-1 in that game was Crim. But, I don't know. There's only so much breaking down you can do on the Merlin. The standard mage gets some good objective shreds down targets later on in the game as well. Last pick, Ymir here for the Highland Ravens. Feels like Ymir Rama, a pretty standard lane. They'll be going up against Ishtar Athena. And so the dual lane, which has been a point of contention already. Game 1 to VaporishCoast, who had a really nice performance. Do you like anything there in that lane? Ishtar Athena versus Ram and the Ymir.
You're not getting pressure in the duo lane from the Ravens. At least you shouldn't, just looking blanket on paper how these two gods interact with waves, or 4 gods rather. I just really like what Ishtar and Athena bring together, as opposed to Ymir and Ram, who've got pretty decent kill pressure, especially if those freezes are connecting. You can't really escape the Astral Barrage as Ishtar, so certainly could be some sparks flying. But if the Hounds so choose, they could play through pressure in PvE and just try and control that neutral farm, keep it a little bit slower over in that duo lane. If we're talking about early game pressure for the Hounds, I think it's all around this Lancelot.
Yep.
Wherever he is, that's where the kill pressure follows. Otherwise, probably a bit of a slower pace in mid. Both Huang and Merlin take a little bit of time to start spooling up. Solo lane, I actually really do like what Ducky's been able to accomplish all week so far in this Hercules. Some of those base defenses can only really be described as miraculous, the amount of times he's able to pull in multiple targets, disrupt that backline. And he's got some decent targets on the Ravens to really look towards. Ymir in particular, if you can really displace him, take him out of the front line or even bring him further back, it's very difficult for him to self-peel.
Not uncharted territory for the Hounds, needing Oathhh to be a lot of that early game pressure. Are we tied up, or are the Highland Ravens going to be on set point? We'll find out in game number 2.
Such a crucial second game for both of these teams. The Eldritch Hounds need this win to prevent the need of a reverse sweep in order to come back. The Highland Ravens need this one to put themselves on match point. Going to the SMITE World Championship, winner of this set goes to the SWC in just 5 days to start things out. And it's crazy to think that we are that much closer to the SMITE World Championship. Now we're sending not only one SEC team, but with this match, a guaranteed second one as well. Will it be both of the top seeded teams from the SEC? Remember, Eldritch Hounds were the #1 North America, Hex Mambo #1 EU. But Trelly, with how dominant game 1 looked, and maybe with the composition, the fact that Adapting got Thor yet again, we might be seeing an EU sweep from the SEC to make their way in.
Sir, it could be that way. I mean, I think the Highland Ravens got a lot of what they wanted. You got Coast on the Rama, not going to be as dangerous as the Ishtar early on, but Doomembro got the Ishtar last game and really was not able to get off to that same good start. This time around, you got Cozyx on the Ymir. That's going to be some great pressure. Forcing out that hog early from Quig just means that it won't be available for the second purple buff. Maybe an invade could be in the future here for the Highland Ravens. And as you said, Cxnnahh and Adapting, the Thor and Amaterasu, that's going to be free farm and also very good initiation off the back of this Anvil of Dawn. We saw it in last game, a game-winning Thor ult. Not that it was needed, but definitely put the game a lot quicker than it should have been ending because of Adapting's clutch plays. And that same style could be set here. However, I do like what the other towns have for themselves. Ducky on the Hercules, a pick that we've seen to some great success and also not so much great success. It really depends on if he can stay safe in the early and get some itemization online. But Crimson on the Merlin as well. A pick that I think is just really strong if you can get it online. Plenty of damage to be done and very difficult to push in to a Merlin once he gets his itemization down.
And it feels like it'll be a very slow start as far as mid is concerned. Merlin not really the most optimal at clearing. Huang also needs a little bit of help early throughout. So maybe once we start hitting level 10 to 12, start getting that second relic on, maybe we'll see a little bit more activism in the mid lane. But dual lane, different story from what we saw last game, where by this point we already seen first blood for the Highland Ravens dual lane. VaporishCoast was able to grab that one. Now, with this Athena Ishtar, and taking away that Maui and the Cernunnos that was so dominant in game 1 for the Ravens duo. Now being forced to this Ram Ymir has made it a little bit harder for the Ravens to push in.
Yeah, I mean, the comp difference is night and day. I think Terra, again, before level 3, not even a real character. She really needs her full kit to be able to find a kill. Cozyx loses beads early on, but will be just fine in lane for the time being. And I think Athena just much more valuable. And also, you notice, Quig and Doomembro right before Cozyx and VaporishCoast were about to hit level 2. In this case, it was just Coast. They retreated. They went to their tower, and that's definitely the smart call. Ducky is absolutely winning this lane currently, which means Adapting is going to give up on Cxnnah's blue buff. This invade should be going down for free, and it will. Ducky gets to pick up that one, so no blue for the Amaterasu. But now purple buff being invaded on the opposite side of the map. This time, the Ravens will be able to grab that for themselves.
With how aggressive Quig and DMB have been on that left side of the map, it's left Quig with basically no mana to try and go for this purple buff invade and maybe a drop on a potential kill because of it. You did see VaporishCoast have to dash away. Instead, they'll be back over down towards the purple buff for the Eldritch Hounds. They'll go ahead and grab that one for themselves. Be able to try and at least stay a little bit ahead
of the Ravens in this lane. Quick flicker by Crimson gets him away from the wall of adapting, but this is a low mana, low health Merlin. One wall double tap could spell doom for the mid laner of the Hounds.
Yeah, Ducky got the double bounce.
Oh,
and
no,
he
he did!
got it!
What?
He's too clean. He bounced it right off the wall. I was going to say, Ducky's waiting to see if he can hit 5. Kana, he's still thinking to himself, why'd I let myself get that low next to a Hercules? That excavate coming through. Ducky built a little bit different. Is going to get that first blood and is going to be just fine in this solo lane.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, when you're that close to the wall for the second tap to hit, you got to get like out of the initial hitbox. Kind of walked away from the wall, which
I'm thinking
still maybe worst case scenario.
in Kana's head, if he got far enough away, the boulder wasn't gonna chase him down, right? I think he was like, I can get out of range of this
big
second
boulder.
tip. It is a big boulder, and it do be rolling.
I want to see it again, Trelly. The good news is we got a replay to see it again from Ducky's POV this time around. We even get to see how he got to that position at to begin with. A driving strike in the wall, just a little bit of extra poke damage there, and then Ducky needs literally 1 minion. That's what it was, is Kana tried to dash away to follow the hitbox and ends up getting tapped. Unfortunate for Kana, he falls for first blood, and not the player you want to give it over to, Ducky, who has been performing lights out on this character this weekend.
And that's the thing, if you're gonna start this Golden Blade and Death's Toll build, you are so susceptible to that play, and it's going to continue. That's why we see Oathhh on the right side of the map. Didn't work out on the invade, but one pickup and a driving strike into an ult, and you are absolutely gone here because Kana's not going to have defense for quite some time. I mean, it may be Berserker Shield after the Golden Blade, but it's going to take a bit. Oathhh needs to find some more pressure on this side of the map, which then forces Adapting to look elsewhere. I mean, Adapting has loved playing through the blue buff, playing through Kana, trying to find aggression. Ooh, misreads that one, but Oathhh on the chase down should have enough. Not enough mana, and Oathhh gets the second kill once again onto this Amaterasu.
Ducky credited for an assist at the least and takes over to level 7 because of that kill. I'm almost thinking maybe that boulder wasn't even like, okay, he's going to dash that way. Maybe just felt like, okay, Oathh's there to guarantee this. I'm just going to go ahead and clear my wave, and maybe hopefully he gets there at that point. So, but Ducky off to a great start on this right side of the map. 1-0-1, Oathhh coming over for the extra kill there. So 2 down now for Kana. Wonder where this maybe forces the hand of Adapting. Does this now tell Adapting, hey, you need to come over and give me a hand over here because I'm kind of getting owned right now? Or is this the case for Adapting who says, Kana, you're a lost cause for the time being. I'm going to go elsewhere.
More often than not, in the SCC in particular, I find that the junglers, once they realize a lane is kind of going the wrong way, they ignore that lane, Kana. I'd love to help you out, but you have tier 2 Golden Blade and a Death's Toll. You're not killing Ducky. You're not getting that Hercules into the kill threshold. If we both fight, he's going to beat me up too. So I'm thinking probably smart to look towards duo lane or even maybe onto this Merlin. We saw one attempt at a wraparound into a wall, but Crimson too quick on the flicker. And that's probably where Adapting wants to find that. Unless, of course, a Ducky just dives tower and goes really hard on that side of the map. It's just very difficult for an Ama to actually burn through Herc's HP, especially from behind with this kind of build.
So it's going to be difficult for Kana to maybe try and maintain parity in this lane, already a level down after that second death goes through. Oathhh now able to kind of tie up Adapting as far as XP, because Adapting has kind of left that side of the map alone. He's been able to get a lot of extra farm over Oathhh to start things out. So maybe we see that pivot for Adapting to go over towards mid, or maybe go towards the dual lane, as maybe you were kind of discussing there, to try and give some help over there, because it's not the same dual lane that we saw in game number 1 where VaporishCoast gets a first blood and then he's just owning that lane. You leave him by himself on this island against DMB because he knows that he's never going to lose a boxing match to DMB. So maybe we see some pressure thrown over to the dual lane instead.
Yeah, I think it all depends on how aggressive the Hounds get, because if they're at tower line, they're pushing that far up the Ishtar, very susceptible to an Anvil of Dawn. A nice wall could just cut off her path unless you're getting upgraded Phantom Shell, right? So making sure to always be mindful of where Adapting is rotation-wise, definitely something the Hounds look towards. And since Kana is level 6, not going to be fighting with this Amaterasu until later on. The good news is Kana does have the ability to just get 2-3 defense items online after this Golden Blade and just run to farm. Use that extra movement speed in the first ability, zoom around the map, and just try and catch up. It is very possible, and Hercules can't quite match that level once the build is actually completed.
For now, carries have been left to their own devices. both level 6 at this point. Well, DMB now procking over to 7. Has been able to get a little bit of the extra neutral farm. And we're looking at the gold for a moment, but that's a very early Gold Fury call. We've seen a couple of those. Not too many ever since the TTK changes way back in patch, I believe it was 9.5 that came through. That kind of slowed down the momentum of these early objectives, but we've seen a couple of moments where these Gold Furies were going around 6-7 minutes. Usually that required a full rotation from a team, and unfortunately Cxnnah's not going to get any rotation from his team to help him out. Blue buff invade puts him down a level and a half to Ducky at this point.
Yeah, and always got to be mindful of the combo. Ducky can just driving strike underneath the tower at this point. I mean, 1,500 in hand, doesn't quite have that teleport for another 20 seconds. So sitting on a little bit of gold, whereas Cxnnah does finish that golden blade. That's going to help out with ease of clear. But I got my eyes on Oathhh and adapting still. I mean, I guess in this case, because Cxnnah's so far behind, adapting doesn't see any reason to get active and start finding some ultimates. But you'd think Oathhh, off the back of a good gank over to the right side of the map, would try and use that influence elsewhere. Maybe over here towards Gold Fury, where adapting finds a nice wall on a Quig.
Gets the ultimate from DMB, double stun from the Ishtar ult. Will force Coast and Cozyx back. Maybe not what they were hoping to grab with that startup freeze. Oathhh goes in, Grand Joust hits 2. A slow on top as well. Angry will crash right back down. Oathhh is stuck between 2 different walls, but Angry is the one who's trapped in the fight with the jungler. Quig picks up 1, but Cozyx will turn it around and finally put the Highland Ravens on the board, but it's a 3-1 start for the Eldritch Hounds.
Yeah, you would have loved if adapting could have got credit for that kill, but this one's going to Cozyx, so the Ymir gets a little bit of extra gold in hand. 3-1, as you said, in favor of the Hounds, and a great initiation. I was a little bit concerned with that Grand Joust hitting 3. Oathhh was by himself for quite some time, but Quig perfectly times that Defender of Olympus, gives a little bit of extra mitigations, and the Lancelot lives just long enough to make sure that Angry falls down as well. Flickering in Crimson definitely wanted adapting to find a hammer there, and then be able to look for the solo kill, but it didn't happen. And now, that's pretty much the end of the aggression here. Look at the relics though. Adapting and Oathhh both have the same beads timer essentially. Gotta watch out for any solo kill opportunities there. Besides that, EruptCrimson really makes out the best. Now has a level lead over Angry because of that kill. Able to get some free farm in the meantime. And this Merlin is getting closer and closer to that late game where you can actually just delete tanky targets. I mean, it's very difficult to be an immobile Ymir into a taunt when you've got a Merlin in the back line.
Yeah, it won't burst kill you instantly like a Thoth or a Ra or even a Vulcan, but you'll see that health bar slowly melt away, especially depending on what stance that Crimson may be in. Even these objectives won't be able to stand for much longer once Crimson gets a little bit of that pen and a little bit of extra power online for the Merlin. We'll be keeping our eyes on the mid for the Eldritch Hounds. Adapting does end up missing that wall against Oathhh. He's going to go for an invade towards these backcamps. Does steal the larger of the ones away. Adapting goes to the sky, but that is defensively to get away from the pressure. The Eldritch Hounds have netted themselves here with Cxnnah going down so many times early on. There's really nothing that Adapting can do on this right side of the map, and nothing he can do to help Cxnnah, who will use the ultimate defensively. Doesn't find a stun on anybody. Instead, it's his own death as yet another boulder from Ducky will drop the solo.
Yeah, that's just a great play by Oathhh, because Adapting wants his back camps. Oathhh had, hey, I heard a hammer. I'm going to go over there and easily win this 1v1, because again, no beads available for either one of them. Adapting has to ult out defensively, and he says, hey, let's go dive Cxnnah underneath this tower. We know this Amaterasu can't live because there's no Thor around. And it's just a free play. Quig takes tower aggro first, forces out the ult, and now Angry has to use the ultimate. Can't go into that Celestial Flight with the cripple field, but should be able to make it out. Now Adapting's caught out.
Adapting taunted back, no beads, no life for the jungler of the Ravens. A completely different Eldritch Hounds team than we saw in game number 1. Insane what one kill on the opposite side of the map does. The confidence of the Eldritch Hounds. Now they'll start up. The Gold Fury. Oathhh gonna tank it up initially, but immediately swap over, and no one from the Highland Ravens to answer. Coast not even willing to try and channel the ultimate if he even knows that this is happening until it's already too late. Eldritch Hounds up 5-1 and 4,000 gold over the Highland Ravens.
Yeah, I would argue the night and day difference between this game and last game, of course, has a little bit to do with not getting first blood at level 1. That's never going to help. But also, Ducky on pressure. Ducky on Wukong, he was fine. He got ulted by adapting twice and never died, but wasn't able to have that same influence. Ducky on Hercules, he's 2-0 at 11 minutes. He's got some XP over Cxnnahh, 2 levels, and is a threat to everyone on the map. You see this Hercules in the jungle, you run the other way. I think the Ducky, Sung Wukong just could not provide that same amount of pressure. And also, Oathhh gets ahead because of it. The Lancelot has certainly been impactful here for the Eldritch Hounds. Pyromancer is still available, though. And it looks like Quig is focused on Angry, where behind him, there's a Thor, and there's an Amaterasu. The hammer's down, so Adapting does have to ult out, but Cxnnahh may be able to get rotated on.
Cxnnahh on the run. Adapting made it back to the tier 1 tower. The Hounds say, all right, cool, you just stole our Scorpion. Why don't we just take a Pyromancer instead? Hounds grabs that. Cozyx only finds a stun against 1. Gets a good wall. Oathhh will jump over it and slow him down, knocks him right back to the rest of the team. Taunt in, beads from Cozyx. Dueling Dragons don't help out too much in that regard. And Ducky grabs his 3rd of the game. A pickup on Cxnnahh. Almost makes it 4. But Cxnnahh with just enough movement speed, he'll be able to hightail it out. But the Eldritch Hounds have now put up 6 on top.
Yeah, Angry and Cozyx lose their beads there. Some good plays from Dude Man Bro. Made the rotation into, hey, I can't even make it. I'm going to try and kill this Huang underneath the tower and force that relic down. A good wall, but Crimson's got Flicker. Now Adapting is absolutely gone. Don't want to be throwing your tower when you're surrounded by 4 Hounds. They smelled meat and they went in. That Thor goes down and also loses his beads too. Look at the relic situation for the Highland Ravens. If you're not VaporishCoast, you're not feeling confident stepping up to anyone, and I don't think a Rama with 2 items is going to be making that play anytime soon. This early game has been all Hounds, and they have no more objectives to go through at the moment. Back to farm until the Oni Fury spawns back in about 2 minutes.
Ducky is just playing with so much confidence in this pick, and why wouldn't he? I mean, you look back at the previous games that he's had on this one, so much to where it's needed to be banned by almost every other team that's gone up against the Eldritch Hounds, just because he's been that good on the pick. It started out real well for him, grabbing a 1st blood, assisting for a 2nd one, and now has 3-0-1 for his columns, 3-1-3 for Oathhh, the only one who's died on the squad, but has put up equal pressure to the right side of the map. When these Hunters get involved, if these Hunters can even get involved, Trelly, because I mean that's the problem that we're might be running into for the Highland Ravens, is by the time that Coast can't even get to one of these team fights, he's 2 levels and 2/3 of an item down to his opposition already.
Yeah, that full executioner means there's no more boxing. Even if there was, and I don't think there was, you're not looking to take that 1v1 trade anymore. This Rama needs to stay safe. Cxnnahh does have Dazzling Offensive, is going to be poked down here. The Grand Jow should be able to chase this one down depending on the juke shoes. And it looks like both choked. Ducky didn't hit the excavate, and Oathhh did not check the dash. Adapting made the rotation over, but Cxnnahh lives to see another day. Is just fine in lane for the time being, but is still going to get bullied for a little bit because Ducky does not care if he misses his ultimate. He's still going to try and fight you.
So a double whiff from Ducky and Oathhh. We saw Oathh's was just off the mark, but looks like the boulder wasn't there either from Ducky. So Cxnnahh praying and thanking the gods that he gets to live another day, doesn't fall for a 4th time. And that'll slow down the Eldritch Hounds for only a moment, but we're still looking at a 4,500 plus gold lead in favor of the Eldritch Hounds so far in this game. Can't even step up to their Obelisk to try and defend at this point. That one's being stripped away by the Eldritch Hounds support. Quig able to grab maybe at least 1 offering there before backing away. And the leads are just getting bad across the board. It's at bare minimum 1 level for everybody on the Eldritch Hounds.
Now that Oni Fury comes up in 30 seconds though. With the amount of damage that Dude Man Bro provides, I'm thinking the Highland Ravens either A, need to get Ward Vision down now, or look to get something else because they should not be stepping up in that case. I think if Crimson and Dude Man Bro are both there, it's going to die so quickly. Not the greatest burst for sure. I think Angry still does have some steal potential with Dueling Dragons, but if you're stepping up that far, when you're this much gold down, you're definitely trading your life for a not guaranteed steal. And that's almost never the call. Cxnnahh has been able to catch up though. I mean, it was a big lead XP-wise for Ducky. Now sitting at level 16, that's what this Ama does. And this is what I'm talking about. Oni Fury spawns in, and the Ravens head right for Fire Giant.
Now Mary play from them to try. Double taunt in the backline from Quig. Fire Giant still in the fight, adapting in the sky. Cozyx cannot get out of the pit. He is running for his life to get out of this one. Adapting will not crash in the fight. Instead it's Cozyx who falls down. The Eldritch Hounds charge forward, beads and Aegis from Adapting, who's able to hammer out. And the health bars on the Eldritch Hounds looking mighty healthy.
They are. What do they get in the meantime, though? Do you pull the Fire Giant yourself? So far, yes, but VaporishCoast has the snipes, and Quig is already getting very weak. The teleport in from Cxnnahh. This might mean the end of this Fire Giant siege here for the Hounds. It looks like they are going to dance with it for a bit, but Oathhh's looking real low. This has to be a retreat call. Adapting sits around the corner trying to find a good wall. Will he step up? Yes, but he's not going to have the wall. Full-on retreat there. I love that regression, though. I mean, the Eldritch Hounds knew they wanted to go for Oni Fury immediately, and the Highland Ravens said, hey, we have an Ama, we've got Xe and crit, might as well go for an attempted pull at the Fire Giant. They don't lose much, just Cozyx's life, and now they're able to pull the Pyromancer.
Pyro at half for the Highland Ravens. No steal this time by the Hounds, but a lot of damage on Cxnnahh and Cozyx. Quig wrapping around. Will he find the taunt he wants? No, it's only Cozyx this time. Can Ducky make a miraculous pull? No, he will not. Not enough gap close for the Eldritch Hounds. But all this has done for the Ravens is stem the bleeding. A 6,000 gold deficit and 9k XP. Every single member of the Eldritch Hounds with a 1 or more level lead. And some of the more dangerous positions, it's a 3-level difference between Crimson and Angry, between DMB and VaporishCoast. And this is what those 6 levels in ahead will do for the Hounds. Oni Fury goes to them.
Certainly does. Look at Adapting, sitting at level 13, 7,000 gold down, and then look at Ducky. Like, imagine being the Thor that's trying to kill this Hercules. It would never happen.
It's the level 1 crook versus the level 50 crime boss.
Yeah, it would just not, you would not even be able to shred through that HP. So, Adapting probably going to be using Anvil of Dawn only on EruptCrimson or Dude Man Bro. Not to say that he can kill level 18 Ishtar either. However, you have more damage, and you have a much better chance of not just getting immediately punched in the face by the driving strike and dying. I mean, it's a complete night and day difference between game number 1 here. This Thor has been largely dealt with. Off to a great start, not only from Oathhh, but Ducky as well. Oathhh was able to juke out the wall there from Cozyx and get out. Uses his ultimate, but I'm thinking grouping up towards the Fire Giant should be on the cards here for the Eldritch Hounds soon. Dude Man Bro picks up a Deathbringer, and he's not going back to left lane. He's heading right over towards that objective. Coast has to deal with the Trebuchet. I'm thinking this is going to be a 5v4 unless he backs immediately.
Yeah, Coast will start clearing out that objective, and that opens the door for the Eldritch Hounds to start up this Fire Giant. Cxnnahh walks by, but it's Cxnnahh versus 3. Still no ult from Oathhh. That'll be down for a little while longer, as that did get forced out just earlier before this engagement started up. Coast has given up the push on the Trebuchet, at least for now. We'll see if that Trebuchet can get any extra value on the left side. Seems that Oathhh was able to put enough in, or VaporishCoast was able to put enough damage to slow it down, and we'll have a full grouping to the right side of the map. But again, everybody's falling behind. Cxnnah's finally caught up. Level 18 to 18 of Ducky, but he's the only one who's sitting even with his opposition.
Yeah, it seems like a possible gank on Cxnnah was the call, but didn't realize Cozyx was right behind. Could have been an easy target. Has been a fair bit of the time, and Quig just blinks in. He's going to get taught, but he's going to get deleted. So much damage towards his Athena.
And VaporishCoast puts him down. The fight that the Ravens needed. Boulder will not hit Coast. He gets up in the sky. Dude Man Bro slow and Adapting puts him down. The Highland Ravens have turned this team fight around, as Oathhh is not able to get the job done to the back line. Cxnnahh dashes in. Crimson goes to the stance switch, but he's not paying attention to Adapting. Just misses out on the hammer. Now Ducky, all by himself, frozen in place, has to beads away, and the Ravens get a 3-for-none trade.
What a terrible fight by the Eldritch Hounds. I mean, Quig clearly just not on point with the team, saying, hey, I'm going to blink into 4. You guys got me, right? Wait, Quig, don't do that. And he just did it anyways. Absolutely gets deleted. Did not have the tank stats to try and live through that, or at the very least, did not have the follow-up damage with his team. Unfortunately for the Eldritch Hounds, the Highland Ravens aren't going to do much. I guess fortunately for them. They're not going to go for the immediate Fire Giant pull. They're still down an incredible amount of gold. So a minor slip up, that's not going to cost too much. I really expect the Ravens to grab more, but if you're losing engagements this far up, what's going to happen when the Highland Ravens catch up, if that is possible? Coast goes back over to left lane. He's going to get free farm, look towards this tier 1 tower. Dude Man Bro also on the left side of the map. He's not on over towards Fire Giant, so it looks like the Hound's call is to just continue farming. Maybe look for level 20, then try that play again. But I don't like Quig being the only one in the back line. He's the only one with Blink, so if the follow-up is not there and they're not getting a kill, that Athena just gets turned on every single time.
We saw that put on display perfectly in that instance for the Highland Ravens. Quig goes in, tries for the taunt, gets maybe 1 or 2, and then instantly gets deleted because of it. Because remember, when you throw that taunt, you are forcing whoever it is in front of you to still attack you, and one of those just so happens to be VaporishCoast, who's got crit and Xe. As that fight starts through, shreds it through, and enough for adapting the squad to take him down. The Eldritch Hounds, though, they have enough cushion from that loss, where they were up nearly 7,000 going into it. Now they're only up 6. Adapting to Son of the Oathhh. Kana taunted in. Quig walled off. The Dueling Dragon shove him back in. He's able to find the dash, but Kana's got the damage. And another punish. On the support of the Eldritch Hounds, the Highland Ravens keep finding these small picks.
It's incredible that Kana was able to not only overcome the 2-level deficit that Ducky had, but also be the dominant force of this team fight. Every single time it's been Kana either in the backline disrupting the carries of the Eldritch Hounds when Quig goes in for a taunt, or in this case, just zoning out. I mean, the Hounds are still up a fair bit of gold, but it keeps climbing in favor of the Highland Ravens. That gold lead is dwindling. That's 6K down to about 4,500. And Primal Fury is up. Level 20s are starting to be hit here. EruptCrimson and Dude Man Bro have the opportunity to upgrade a starter item when they get some extra gold in hand. That will help. But where is the engage? Clearly Blink taunt in from Quig is not the call because he's not tanky enough. Sovereignty has been finished up. That will help a bit. But if it's Blink taunt from Quig, Ducky needs to be in the back line. And more specifically, Dude Man Bro and Crimson need to be ready to follow up on that taunt. If not, you're just sending your Athena in to die, and now you're in a lopsided fight. Immediately starts the Fire Giant, though. The Ravens this time get caught out at the Fury, and maybe a pick on Nakana, but the taunt is off the mark.
Taunt doesn't hit. That is the horse from Oathhh. This is buying a lot of time for the Highland Ravens to go through, adapting to the sky. Will he crash down in the fight, or will he wait? Snipes as well. Go through, dug into the back line. Boulder hits a couple. Coast turns his sights back in. The front line gets stunned twice on landing, and it's Ducky. Erased first. Quig immediately after. The Highland Ravens again are able to fight through this and keep themselves alive in the fight. Not a single one has dropped in the last 3 engagements that have gone their way.
And that was a lot of CC on the Cozyx. I really thought Ymir would at least be able to fall there, but it just didn't seem like anyone from the Eldritch Hounds was able to follow up on that massive pull-in from Ducky, and Quig actually had some great impact taunts there. Unfortunately, EruptCrimson had the follow-up. Dude Man Bro pumped some autos, but it wasn't enough, and now the Highland Ravens, off the back of Kana, should be able to start up this Fire Giant. Dude Man Bro is trying for a wraparound, but on a ward, or at least, yeah, definitely was caught out for a second. You'd think the Highland Ravens are onto this, and Crimson, he's also here.
Yeah, Cozyx recognizes this. He'll zone away DMB. Crimson's got to get in now if he wants it, but he won't. The Highland Ravens, who are 7,000 gold down to the Eldritch Hounds, one single misplay of a team fight has now completely swung the door wide open for the Highland Ravens. That initial blink taunt from Quig over a wall with no follow-up has led to a complete flip of the script for the Highland Ravens in Game 2.
I mean, I would argue you don't lose a 7K gold lead from one single misplay. That was awful, but then it was still a 6,000 gold lead, and then they lost a fight again. And then it was 4,500, then they lost a fight again. And this time, Kana steals the Primal Fury. Kana had a terrible early game, but it's absolutely popping off for the Highland Ravens here in the late. Was not worried, said, yeah, Ducky's going to solo me, sure. Oath's going to come over and get a second kill, but I'm going to get online eventually, and when I do, you guys are going to be sorry. There has been some attempt at his life, but he has been able to be speedy enough, juke out the taunts, and these dazzling offensive have been connecting consistently to the backline of the Eldritch Hounds. And now they're on their back foot. They have to try and defend. Athena Still has that same ability to blink in and look for a taunt underneath Phoenix, but if it didn't work in the jungle, I'm wondering who's going to be following up this time around underneath the Phoenix.
Put in perspective for Connor, it was 0-3-0 to start this game out. And now he is 3-3-3, has gone 3-0-3 in these last few engagements, has really turned it around for his team. Now stealing away the Fury just moments ago from the Eldritch Hounds. Completely evens up this game and now puts the lead in favor of the Highland Ravens. Tier 1 and left down, Tier 2 and mid gone by just Cxnnahh and the minions alone. And now the Eldritch Hounds are in a defense like they were just in game number 1. Almost the exact same point where they're defending a Tier 2 and left. Now last time, it was a miracle dunk by Adapting that ends the game early for the Ravens. But now that the Ravens just barely catching up and playing even, it's going to take more than just the dunk to get this one going.
Definitely so. I still think Quig has got his hand ready on that blink, and Ducky could be the follow-up as well. Pulling someone under tower would be a good look, but the Emperor's armor is available. The tower's going down slowly, and Oathhh does have a bit of a wraparound, but eventually, if they just keep poking out with VaporishCoast auto attacks, this Tier 2 will be an afterthought. And there's still one more on the right side of the map, but stalling out this Fire Giant seems to be the call here from the Eldritch Hounds. It's not easy to push into Merlin, and that Tier 2 will drop. Fire Giant goes away in about a minute 20, and they still have one more Tier 2 tower to look for. So at the very least, if you're the Hounds, you're down in gold now, but you didn't lose a Phoenix. You still have your Phoenixes to sit under and try and find some aggression there. But Quig is still level 14. Cozyx is able to hit level 17 in this process. This Athena just doesn't seem like they'll be able to be the front line of any sort of engagement anytime soon.
He's going to need help from Ducky, but I mean, we saw what happened last time.
Yeah.
Quig and Ducky went up essentially by themselves. Quig started out the fight great. Ducky went to middle 3. Quig said, all right, bet, I've got some backup for you. And as soon as Quig landed, it was a double freeze, double dueling dragons, a wall by Adapting, and then death for both of the front line for the Eldritch Hounds. But this game isn't out of control just yet for the Ravens. Remember, they just now regained this lead. It's only 3,000 up for them. So a 10K gold swing they've made in the last about 8 or so minutes of play. So for the Eldritch Hounds, not too far out of the call for them just yet, but this position the Eldritch Hounds haven't been in a while, Trelly, against any other SCC squad. You remember, all through the regular season of play, Eldritch Hounds undefeated against their SCC counterparts. It's only when they go up against the SPL teams that they've been dropping some of those sets up there. The Highland Ravens poised that they can maybe find one more team fight, one good objective fight, put themselves 2-0 up in this best of 5.
And there's so many small corridors. The wall from Ymir could be so deadly, and Quig has Blink and Meditation. There's no Phantom Shell. It's going to have to be, you're going to blink that wall, or you're going to be in some trouble. And Cozyx, extremely tanky, finished up the Relic Dagger, so that Meditation and the beads are going to be very difficult to actually lock down this Ymir. It's a waiting game here, and you can tell the Highland Ravens, they're not looking towards a Fire Giant. They're grouped. They're trying to find a wraparound wherever possible. Maybe just some relics, anything that could start off these engagements. And a pull on Cxnnahh is going to be the call, but Cxnnah's not taking too much. Quig is actually getting shredded through.
Dragon slams 2. Oathhh in the backline trying to take down Angry,
What
but
a
he gets
wall!
blocked off by the wall of Adapting, who's now up in the sky. 2-man pro. Beads are gone. Age is still available. He's going to want to use it sometime soon, but he waited a little too long, and Adapting crashes in. Coast to the skies with the snipes. Will take down Quig. Aegis on landing, a freeze against Ducky. The push is not enough. It is 4 down on the Eldritch Hounds, and the Highland Ravens are slamming through this team fight.
I mean, that would have been a great pick if Oathhh was able to actually get that grand joust off, but Adapting, he doesn't miss a blink, man. He went for the wall immediately. This is an enhanced Fire Giant 30 minutes into the game. And from 7,000 gold down, the Highland Ravens are sieging forward. It's going to be just Crimson for another 15 seconds until Oathhh shows up. But this Phoenix at least is going down. I think they've got the damage to go for it. And Crimson's getting purple buffs.
Crim, you gotta go back and help out, buddy. You got 5 seconds on Oathhh, 6 on Quig. Crimson is just now gotten back. Only it's the pull on 1, freeze on 2. Crimson's gone. Oathhh and Quig are not enough. The Highland Ravens, 7K down earlier on, flipped this game immediately and are now up 2-0 in the series.
I mean, if a 7K gold lead is not enough, what do the Hounds need to win a team fight? It just didn't seem like they were on the same
adapting.
page, as he should. I mean, had a terrible start, don't get me wrong. That Thor was bottom of the damage charts, no connected ultimates. All it took was a little bit of overstep. The team really showed up. I'm giving MVP to Cxnnahh, though. Having that XP differential and still being able to zone the back line and set up for your front line, it's not easy to do. Amaterasu, very slippery, but you can't make those kind of plays unless you're playing lights out.
I mean, you dial back. We're not even going to just, 7,000 gold. I've said it multiple times, but we're talking levels in every single role. 2-3 levels down for mid, for Hunter, couple levels from solo. I think support was about the only thing that was close in that regard, even jungle down. And one little misplay from Quig. That alone, as you say, was not enough to turn this game over. But maybe that was just the momentum shift that the Highland Ravens needed. They take game number 2, put themselves up 2-0 in the series. One game away from the SMEC is the EU SCC squad yet again. Can they keep that up, or the Eldritch Hounds find their bounce back? We'll find out in game 3 right after this.
Rivers run dry, dust breaths in the air. 2 dark days, do you have a tear to spare? Make a promise, the world awaits. It's heavy just breathing through this debate. Come on, start a riot. When they love you too much, know it's fake, fake, or even hate. Don't be scared if the weight paralyzes your state at the gate.
Well, if you stopped watching Game 2 about 10 minutes in, you'll be surprised to hear that it's the Highland Ravens who now have a 2-0 lead in our best-of-5 set, 1 game away from sending Adapting back to Worlds. Crazy storyline. And the Eldritch Hounds, they have it here. They're off to such a good start in Game 2. Ducky's playing out of his mind in the solo lane, but eventually you come to team fight phase, and the Highland Ravens are just too clean. VaporishCoast goes crazy at the end of this game, and it's a treat to watch and a great win for the Highland Ravens. My name's Dolson. Mifflin's still with me. And Miff, you know, you talk about mental shifts in a set. It's one thing if you just lose a game, but losing a game when you've got like a 7-kill lead for the Eldritch Hounds, and now you're down 0-2.
And like an 8K gold lead.
An 8K gold lead, a steep hill to climb, needless to say.
Yeah, I mean, that is tough. I would argue maybe some of the wounds inflicted on the Eldritch Hounds self-inflicted from that game, right? Stars and P's and B's. Let's adapt. Yeah, I'll take one from you. Let's adapt and get adapted.
He would hate that.
He would.
That's
would.
overplayed.
We got to get him off the Thor, man. These walls were just stifling. Coast, of course, has proven on any pick he's just going to absolutely dominate. I think there are silver linings that the Hounds can look towards going into Game 3. And that silver lining's name is Ducky. That guy has been dominating his lane here in Game 2, but otherwise the Highland Ravens just play so well into the deficit, forcing the Eldritch Hounds to feel like they need to overextend. I'm thinking back to the first team fight where the Highland Ravens are finally able to crush the Eldritch Hounds. It's the Hounds grouped around fire, prepared to pull it, still nursing an 8,000 gold lead, but because the Ravens kite them out and just show just enough presence, the Hounds refuse to actually commit to the Fire Giant, chase towards those back camps, and they get smashed for it. And from there, the Highland Ravens able to fight their way back in very well. Some key Thor walls. VaporishCoast plays this particular team fight perfect. I don't think I could program a task bot. If I could go back and literally input frame by frame, I'm not doing better than what VaporishCoast did right there. I mean, that was just a well-executed fight. The Hounds, they got to be nervous.
Ends the game at 3-0-8. Now, for Adapting, a 5-1-6 game on Thor in Game 1, and now a 4-2-7 game on Thor here in Game 2. So he has gone a combined 9-3-13 in 2 games while allowed to play.
Is that good?
One of his signature picks. Honestly, for Adapting, he might call it below average. But it's been fantastic for this set. Oathhh puts up some good damage numbers, so does Crimson at 19,000. So the damage was there. A lot of that front-loaded in this game. Later on, that's where the Highland Ravens step up. I mean, now it's an overplayed question, but you have to, again, be thinking about this Thor for Adapting. Where
I'm not thinking about it. I've
again,
thought about it.
But you weren't thinking about it after Game 1
I
either.
agree, and clearly they shouldn't have been.
Ducky dropped it, but he was the guy who ultimately could have just gone rogue and clicked on Thor and banned it away. But again, you know, it's come team fight time where Adapting really takes it over, and that's okay. I'm saying
that's been his MO for a
right,
very long time.
MO is you chill out, you farm up, and then eventually you take away team fights. Picks and bans for Game 3. Let's see what types of changes, adaptations, if you will.
Boo.
God, that's so overplayed.
Boo.
Well, when you have a name like that, I mean, it's just
He's inviting it. He
Right.
asked for it.
Oh, Eldritch Hounds, they are in the first pick slot. Highland Ravens still over in second pick. because the answer is the first pick has been like Ishtar or one of the AD carries.
Yep.
And then the immediate answer has been something plus Thor for the Highland Ravens.
Yep.
Remember, was a 100% win rate, or ban rate rather, against the Thor for the, oh my goodness, 100% ban rate of the Thor against the Highland Ravens going into this set. We got there. That's now dropped to just a 66% ban rate. At risk of not getting banned again here, though the Maui gets taken away. And finally, the change is made.
The Hounds won't let it happen 3 times in a row.
No one plays against Adapting's Thor 3 games in a row.
Usually because they're best at 3s.
Usually because it's a 2-0 set and they're done for by that point. Now the Hounds are a resilient team. They have not faced much adversity throughout the year here in the SEC. Gonna have to do so now. Baba Yaga gets banned away, and then an Agni first pick for Crimson. That is a pick/ban against Angry. Angry has been falling back under the Baba Yaga or the Agni throughout this weekend. And so I think a good start here for the Eldritch Hounds. But an Amaterasu first lock-in. I wonder if you're still
Blades of light.
getting something for
Smite my
adapting
foes.
immediately. The answer is no. Amaterasu plus Ishtar, though, Miff. Certainly a strong start for the Ravens, regardless of there not being a Thor.
No, the Ishtar, I think, should generate a whole lot of pressure, and considering VaporishCoast has been the problem in the early game, every single game this set could be a god player combo that becomes nearly as synonymous as the adapting Thor. No, I can't say that. I'll never say that again, but I'm getting swept up.
You go wash out your mouth.
I should.
You repent.
Mike, that's our stage manager. I'm gonna need some soap on standby. Yeah, he gave me the thumbs up. We'll get that rectified. I promise, my fans.
If you ever dare. But for now, you're safe. We'll give you one pass on this. Cernunnos for the Hounds. Ymir for the Ravens. It looked fantastic. There were so many freezes in Game 2 that slowed down the aggression of the Hounds. Whether they were running into a literal Ymir wall or initiating and then being double frozen, it felt like just great synergy there with Cozy and Ymir. And so I like the run back here from the Highland Ravens. I do like getting Ducky on something aggressive, though, again here, Myth, because we've seen the Sun Wukong Ducky, we've seen the Hercules Ducky. The Hercules Ducky was able to make a few plays here, and I do think a shining light in what otherwise was a tough game there in game number 2. Some jungle bands will roll through, though. Oathhh will take the Susano and the Naja. Fenrir, that has been a fallback for adapting.
Yeah, but he's got plenty of fallbacks, right? Ratatasker, again, could fulfill a similar playstyle to the Thor. Sure, you're lacking the wall, but your initiation gets a little bit better. That knock-up, incredibly strong. The follow-up stun from a range as well. So the Ravens, I think, can just wait out on Adapting's pick. He's very capable of playing just about anything in that Assassin tab. The Hounds, on the other hand, I think, have really got themselves a great composition with the top 3. You've got second-best aggression in the Hunter role. Ishtar, of course, generally just leading that charge. Hercules has served Ducky incredibly well. We got that direct lane matchup in the previous game, and Ducky looks real good. A couple of solo kills, massive rotations that Hercules stifling in some of these team fights. And then the Agni hasn't been one of the primary go-tos for Crimson, but the one time we'd seen it this week, looks incredibly strong on it, and as you said, does act as a tertiary ban towards Angry on the other side. Mercury locked in for the King. He's got a lot of experience. He brings it up playing against Johnny throughout the regular season. That's
right.
One of his favorites. He's got a pretty keen eye, a first look at how Mercury should look. I expect a slow pace from Adapting, which generally is his MO, likes to farm up, wants to control that team fight phase. So where are you going to look elsewhere? Where's the pressure going to originate? It's got to be the dual lane for the Ravens. If you want to make sure that the Hounds have to respect you on map, aren't just allowed to have Ducky try and play that hyper-aggressive style with the dives of Oathhh on the right-hand side, play through your duo, Ishtar and Ymir,
Yep.
I think they could do it.
If there are a couple absolute win/loss rates at battle here. Merlin played 4 times, has not won yet this weekend, which is wild to me. Merlin feels like just such a solid mage pick. Merlin yet to win. Nemesis has only won. We have only seen wins from Nem. So those two battling it out on either side. Now you start to take in the context of this match now for the Eldritch Hounds, and I think the mentality is always what? One game at a time when you've got to win 3 straight. I don't know if you've ever faced any reverse sweep, like where you were down 0-2.
I've never reverse swept in my life.
Have you been down 0-2?
Yeah. And I was down. Let me tell you, my mental
What was your mental?
I was the huge proponent of, hey, things aren't going well, so I'm going to get really quiet and start sulking. And because I was primary shot callers for my team,
Does that extend
also was just bad.
to life, or is that just a SMITE thing for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a therapy session right now, but when I am sad, I keep it to myself.
Why do you think that is?
Ask me about SMITE, bud. How
I
about
will ask you about SMITE. Do you think the Eldritch Hounds have a full 5 here that are able to turn things around?
man?
Compositionally, does it make sense?
It's a strong composition. I think you've got great points of the game that you can play through. I think it's really contingent on the duo lane. DMB's just got to hold it down, let Ducky do his work in the solo.
Eldritch Hounds have got to win 3 straight. One of them starting right here, right now. J-Mac and Trelly, how are you feeling and why?
I'm feeling pretty good myself. Charlie, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
We're feeling good over here on the cast. We hope that the Eldritch Hounds are feeling as good as we are going into this game, because they're going to need all that and more if they want to take down the Highland Ravens, who are up 2-0 in the best of 5. 1 game away for the EU team to make it with their EU brothers in Hex Mambo, to have a full EU SCC sweep going over into the SMITE World Championships. So the Eldritch Hounds have got to stop it here, not just once, not just twice, but 3 games in a row, Charlie.
We have seen crazier things, but I'm thinking the Highland Ravens, they're feeling confident trying to put a stop to that right here. I mean, they've got some great picks to do so. Cozyx back on the Ymir, VaporishCoast on the Ishtar, and Cxnnahh back on the Amaterasu. All things that I think could be driving forces here in game number 3. I wouldn't be surprised if the duo lane of the Ravens try to get out to a very early start, as per usual with Ymir and Ishtar. You're going to have a pretty easy time. But luckily, Quig actually starts the 2 this time around, does not have to waste the hog, and is just able to pick up Cozyx, so he doesn't actually have to lose his minis either. That's a great play. It will make your clear a little bit worse, but at the very least, oh, he might still have to hog if Cozyx actually goes in for the ice carpet.
No, it's a pickup. I'm actually a little surprised that Quig didn't throw Cozyx at Dude Man Bro and put a little bit more pressure on the Ymir early on, but I guess just wanted to get to lane as quick as possible and maybe avoid some of the fighting. But unfortunate for them, Coast has already hit level 2 on the Ishtar. We saw what Coast was able to do with a level 2 lead earlier on in the set, but not in quite the same position to do so. At least not on these first couple of waves. But Coast and Cozyx, with their pressure they got, with that early lead, will be able to establish at least a nice start for themselves over on the left side.
Looks like beads from all the carries at the moment. I was thinking maybe a blink from Oathhh, but respecting too much what Adapting's able to do on this Mercury. Feared maybe the ultimate later on, and especially if you're looking towards duo. Not going to be able to find too much aggression if you're getting Ymir frozen, so I think a smart call there. Still has a great late game time, and if you're using that shield effectively, you will be able to outbox the Mercury, but Oathhh, wow, has to use the beads there. Was a little bit worried. The damage coming through from Angry and Adapting. I'm a big fan of the level 5 Agni, but pre-level 5, I mean, you can't buy clear with this character. The Flame Wave, you have to step up into the Merlin clear, give yourself susceptible to being pulled in by special delivery. You really need to get some levels before you're safe to walk up to lane.
Fight around the mid camps, still brewing, but Angry and Adapting, able to grab the larger of those harpies. The minion wave size. On the right side of the map, a pull onto Cozyx, maybe not the best decision by Quig as he eats an insane amount of poke. The meditation is down, only a couple of health potions left. Look at all the archers that Cxnnah's got to deal with. Just from the pressure that Ducky has put up, keeping those minion waves on his side of the map all the way up until now. Cxnnah should be able to clear those no problem, thanks to the rotation from Adapting, able to pick up his blue buff in no contest as well.
I'm thinking the purple buff could be under some fire here. Cozyx has the Interceptor, and Quig was looking a little bit worse for wear HP-wise, so that is going to be the immediate call. However, Quig has the hog, has to use it effectively here, does not want to get stunned as the damage comes through, and the Highland Ravens realize they don't want to waste too much time here without eyes on EruptCrimson. So they're just going to go for the minis invade and back up. I'm thinking Cozyx still steps up, though, just to be annoying, maybe to force out that hog. And it does look like that's the call here. Will Quig use it or try to hold this Ymir around until Oathhh shows up?
Oh, Cozyx rooted in place, picked up by Quig, thrown against the wall, surrounded by 3, but the Mez from Coast buys him a little bit of time, a little bit of distance. A sprint pops through, but the slow is still there from turnaround freeze by Cozyx, and the support in a 1v3 scenario with the backup of his support of his carry, able to make it out alive.
Yeah, I mean, Coast was doing so much of Dude Man, bro. He had to respect the DPS and walk away, and even sent out some chuckles. This kid is playing lights out. I mean, Coast has been playing fantastic throughout the entirety of this tournament, but you could tell whenever he's feeling himself, he's going to let out some taunts, he's going to let out some laughs, going to try to get in your head. That's usually what Dude Man Bro likes to do, but he has not gotten the opportunity to, not a single time this set, because VaporishCoast has been on point.
For my money's worth, Charlie, a quiet Dude Man Bro is maybe a low mental team for the Eldritch Hounds. He's usually one of the most vocal players on the team, in-game and out of game. The fact that we're seeing him so quiet in this one, it's not a great look. Adapting with the Sonic Boom finds Ducky. Ultimate is available for Ducky, but he's not even going to get a chance to use it. Gets caught out of the driving strike, and on the other side of the map, DMB, what are you doing so far up the wall? Catches him out, and Cozyx puts him down, and look at Coast popping off for the Highland Ravens. He just grabbed 2 picks.
I mean, Ducky knew the ult was coming. He tried his best to juke it out, couldn't quite immune it with that excavate. But kinda on point with the dazzling offensive. Predicted the driving strike down to the T, 180'd, and was able to find that stun and confirm the first kill. And then, to your point, I've got no clue why Dude Man Bro felt so confident being that far up, especially when he was level 4. I mean, maybe he was about to hit 5, and that's why he wanted to look for that aggression. Does not matter. Coast, level 6 off that play, while Cozyx was able to hit level 5, get the kill as well. And this Ymir looking real nice with that extra kill.
Now that Kana's had a game to play against this Hercules, understands what it takes to fight up against. Even changed up the build, didn't go for the Golden Blade this time. Did Kana, picked up that round shield instead, maybe towards the Berserkers a little bit earlier on. Gives him some better defense and a little bit of extra boxing potential in that regard. So a better start on the right side of the map, similar to game number 1 start for VaporishCoast on the left side. Maybe not the first blood, but still a first kill in that lane.
Certainly is. And that means Oath's job just became a lot more difficult. You can't really look towards left. Dude Man Bro's not going to be able to poke out VaporishCoast for quite some time. The beads are down, but as long as that ultimate's there, it's just so difficult to actually close gap onto an Ishtar. And then you're looking over to right, Ducky. He's already dead once. He's not going to be able to find too much pressure on Kana. The teleport is available for Kana, whereas Ducky does not have it, so this Amaterasu is going to be a lot more confident being able to take some more poke and then back up, get a second health bar, and teleport back in. So Oath's only job now is to say, hey, is Cozyx out of position? Maybe I can ult him, but he's got sprint. All of the Hounds are in a rough spot here. They just need to find as much farm as possible and make sure you're warding up in case Adapting comes sending it down a lane.
Cozyx doesn't find a freeze on anybody. Slowed down, but will be just fine even in the 2v1 situation. Buy some time for Angry to show back up and clear out his wave. Level 8s for the mid laners. Quig thought maybe he would go steal an offering wave, but I think he walked over and said it's a full rotation to Coast, and I guess Dude Man Bro thought that that was going to connect.
He really thought that was going to connect.
He was banking on that Bramble Blast hitting, and instead comes up bankrupt instead, loses the ultimate with it. And now there's not a fear in the world for Coast on this left side.
If you want some extra enjoyment in this game, whenever a play like that happens, look at Coast player cam, because he absolutely pops off, yells, just everything you can imagine when you're feeling this confident. Cozyx might be looking for a good wall here, but not going to be the play. Full on retreat as it looks like a successful blue buff invade. Ducky gets Kana back, but no follow-up from Oathh. That ultimate is down. A possible ultimate here to try and chase down, but Oathh already calls it off. That's going to be a successful invade. Loses ult for nothing. Probably fearing Adapting, ulting in from downtown. And he was there, able to. Didn't look like he really thought that Kana needed help, and he didn't.
Coast versus DMB, ultimate through. Beads maintain. Coast now attacked by Quig, who will be frozen. Tries to go for the pull, but VaporishCoast
adapting.
styles on him. Oathhh around the backside though, drops the ult on top of Coast. Coast still holding on to the beads this entire time, adapting. Goes into the fight, but Oathhh with a quick shield will heal up the damage that adapting had done to him. And it's an evened out trade on the left side. Only the sprint popped by Cozyx for the meditation out of Quig.
And that was some good engage, but you gotta watch out for that wall from Cozyx still. It seems like Oathhh and Quig really want to go for that Interceptor. And they will be able to confirm it for Quig in this case. And that's going to be all. Pushing up to, trying to get to around a 2K, 1.2K gold lead in favor of the Ravens, but no objectives have been looked at just yet. It's still a bit early, especially when Ishtar doesn't have a crit online. That's when you really get access to making calls like that. But I'm thinking Crimson might have to make a rotation. It's not enough to send Oathhh over to the duo lane as we just saw. They need more damage if they're going to be able to get off to a better start here. These fights have not been going in favor of the Eldritch Hounds and the Ravens. Haven't been able to find too many successful ganks, but never in danger of dying either. They're stepping so far forward with no fear of being punished.
Can we also just talk about the level of confidence that VaporishCoast had and the calm and collectedness he had in that entire engagement on the left side? Not only squares off against Dude Man Bro, throws the ultimate at him just for some extra. Sees that Quig is coming over, just casually walks away, and then Quig tries to go for a pull with that gravity well. And what does VaporishCoast do? Instead of beadsing or trying to walk away, he dashed at him with the jolt to get the backflip style to go away so he doesn't lose on beads. He doesn't risk being pulled back. And he doesn't even beads Oath's ultimate whenever he gets hit by that too. Doesn't use his relic at all. This is insane play from VaporishCoast in this third game.
Yeah, I mean, he knows his damage numbers well. And unfortunately for Oathhh, he knows his build is not very good right now. Golden Blade into tier 2 mace, you're just not swinging like that. You need more damage as a Nemesis to actually be a threat. That's good clear, good movement speed. It's going to take a bit before you're actually fearing how much damage is going to come from this Nemesis later on, for sure. You know, Coast has to panic, maybe dash away, maybe go back for his team. But in this situation, you're saying, okay, you've got some slows, but you have no actual damage built up just yet. I've got my eyes on adapting, though. He hasn't quite finished that rage. When he does, we'll love to get some stacks online, send out those sonic booms, possibly looking over towards that duo lane or even to EruptCrimson in mid. But so far, doesn't quite have enough gold to finish that item, so he hasn't sent one out besides that gank over to Ducky early on in the solo lane.
Fight around Oracle Harpies. Crimson wants to try and steal these away, but will not do so. It's the Highland Ravens who come up big. Now have vision around the Gold Fury pit to spot out potential rotations from Oathhh. Angry actually just like back taunted Crimson, who missed not only the flame wave stun but the bomb after. Angry just double backed for the fun of it, just to essentially taunt the man without actually pulling off a taunt.
Yeah, I mean, when you know you're out of range, you know you're out of range. And I don't fault Crimson. I mean, he's even at the moment. I still think if he makes the rotation over anywhere, he's going to let Angry get ahead. But your team needs a leg up in this race so far. Has not been able to find much. Pyromancer is being started up, though. So far, it doesn't look like the Ravens are keen to this. Kana is just checking blue buffs. So yeah, they should be a free objective here. Unless, I was going to say, unless Cozyx sees a giant gamma ray burst in the sky and realize what's going on. He will not. So the Pyromancer goes down. And Dude Man Bro, despite going Executioner to VaporishCoast crit, was able to get the better of that boxing trade for a bit, but immediately is going to hear that the Highland Ravens are pulling this Fury. But he's surrounded by 3, almost 4 if Adapting shows up.
Yeah, Cozyx shows up, and that will deter Dude Man Bro. Wall is there. The Ravens get the Gold Fury off the immediate answer of the Pyromancer. And now, Charlie, we're looking at about a 2,000 plus gold lead for the Highland Ravens off the back of 2 kills earlier on. The pressure across the map as Kana's undeterred. In fact, will double ult Oathhh. Adapting even uses his own, gets the dash, and nowhere for Oathhh to go. His beads are down, his dash is gone, and so is the rest of his health. And look at Adapting, he's smiling all the way. Coast is getting loud yet again. This Highland Ravens team is playing with full momentum.
I'm telling you, I mean, getting off to a 2-0 game start is going to put your confidence at an all-time high, right? The Hounds know they need to show up, but they can't find anything so far. And it doesn't seem like the Ravens have any interest in taking it easy. Like I said, every single time Coast is making a good play, he's popping off. His team's getting loud, as they should. They've got a dominant performance here so far. That gold lead continues to climb with 0 answers from the Eldritch Hounds. With that Fury and the Pyromancer down, at least for now, they can breathe a sigh of relief. They know that no more aggression should come their way for the time being. They can look to just get their neutral farm wherever possible. And to their own credit, a 7,000 gold lead last game was thrown.
It was not enough.
However, it was the Eldritch Hounds doing the throwing. Maybe you're hoping the Ravens can make a play like that, but they haven't made too many mistakes this set so far.
And you know, that's not even the worst lead that we've seen thrown so far this tournament, Charlie. We had an 11K earlier on in the week as well, so never count a team out just yet. All it takes is a couple of small misplays, one too many deaths in a team fight that may have not even needed to happen, or maybe just a pick onto Quig to keep things going. Quig actually helps turn around, adapting too far forward. The boulder from Ducky is good, but VaporishCoast has shown up. Not going to get the damage out this time. That is exactly what might be needed to get this thing going. Ducky up against Coast, but it's a stun from Coast on the pull back from the swords. And Two-Man Bro, level 12, stands up and stands tall with the rest of his team.
Yeah, that's a big play there from the Hounds. What seemed to be a free pick on a Quig quickly transforms into an easy pick onto adapting. Some low health bars, but nothing confirmed, and the Eldritch Hounds are finally on the board. That kill going over to EruptCrimson, honestly, he's been farming well. He's the only member of his team that was relatively even, so probably a good call to give the kill over to him. Oathhh actually finds a level lead all the while adapting was in the grayscale. So this Nemesis is going to get a faster track on the late game where she can actually do some damage and doesn't have to fear for her life around every corner when the beads are down. But it still looks like Coast should be careful. He's got no relics available, and it looks like actually dashes in a Doom Man, bro, but he's trading back so much damage.
He is, but unfortunate for Coast, there are 3 people there, and 3 too many for VaporishCoast. He'll go down for the first time this game. 1-1-1 now is the carry for the Ravens. And the Eldritch Hounds are finding their avenues. They're finding a couple of these windows that have been left open by the Highland Ravens, and they're sneaking their way back into this game. As we're sitting at about 2,500 gold lead up now, only for the Highland Ravens, who was looking much more dire just earlier on.
Ducky has got his back stopped 3 times now. I'm curious how long this will go. Just because he wants to get, what I'm assuming, a Shield of Regrowth online as soon as possible, but Cxnnah's not going to let that happen. Is actually walking towards back camps. I was wondering if speed buff was on the mind of the Ama, but not the case. Just going to proxy some waves. Level 16 already before 16 minutes. That's the benefit of how much speed you can really build up as an Amaterasu with Golden Blade. You just farm waves and continue to push your lead. I would say fighting anywhere near Cxnnah, probably a good idea here for the Ravens.
Cxnnah, 17-15, a 1-level lead for both the carries of the Highland Ravens as well. It's been a quiet game in the KDA, at least, for Angry, sitting at goose eggs across the board for himself. The only person actually in the map who doesn't have any form of active point into anything from kills or assists. But it's definitely not been shirking in damage so far. Now, we'll throw a little bit. Aegis burned from the dive of Oathhh. Sonic Boom from adapting. Doesn't land onto Oathhh, but at least scares Oathhh away. Freeze gets the beads from Oathhh this time around. And a pick up by Quig will only slow down the engage of the Highland Ravens. And look at Coast rotating over from left lane. Could be making for a play towards Pyro.
I mean, if I'm Oathhh, I'm never trying to take that 1v1 under tower. You got to respect the stance switch, and as you said, Coast already makes it in. Steal opportunities abound. Crimson does have good damage, and Quig drops the ultimate, but Ducky, he's in the back against 5.
And up against the Fire Giant, it is Cxnnah to shut down the solo lane once more of the Eldritch Hounds. Crimson has already dashed. All it'll take is a little bit of CC to lock him out, but good stun from the mid laner. Has slowed this one down. Cozyx get pulled back in. Freeze onto Crimson. Beads now gone from the mid laner. And Oathhh tries to go in to save the day. But another wall from Cozyx sets up for adapting. And the rest of the Ravens to knock down Oathhh. But Two-Man Pro turns it around. Gets a kill on his lane opponent. Adapting will walk in and needs a couple of extra punches to take down D&B. He'll do so, but trades out his life.
Yeah, Crimson looking for damage here, though, and it doesn't look like he'll be able to find Angry. So many relics down from both of these teams. The one not off the mark, just out of range. Good dash away from Angry, and it looks like that's going to be all. of the fighting so far. Still 2,500 gold in favor of the Highland Ravens, but that was essentially everything used. That fight should have been a lot cleaner in favor of the Ravens. I think the Hounds did a great job of finding picks where they can, and now they've got a 2-0 Agni. That is something they can fight towards for sure. The issue is that 2-0 Agni is behind the 1-0 Merlin, and still, Ducky was in the back line versus 5, and is now 2 levels behind Cxnnahh. I mean, wasn't even able to get the blue buff with the excavate. That really hurts.
What did Cxnnahh even take it with? Like, did the stun break just in time for him to turn an auto to take that one away? Did the mirror shield go off that I didn't notice and steal it that way? Whatever it may be. This is a completely different Cxnnahh from what we saw in game number 2, where at this point Cxnnahh was the one who was down 2-3 levels, was sitting at 0-3. All it takes is one game to dial in how Ducky and the Hounds play. And Cxnnah's been able to now start with a 2-0-2 for this Amaterasu.
Yep, Oni Fury has spawned back in, and with that, the Pyromancer is also in play. That's going to be looked at and immediately done here with some great crits from adapting. 4 stacks on the Rage immediately into a Wind Demon. You don't want to meet this Mercury in the jungle, but the Eldritch Hounds realize they've got some time to maybe go for the Oni Fury themselves. They're going to head that way, but Cxnnahh and adapting, they're not going to let that one slide. They're also rotating over to left. I think it's still Ravens' time to be aggressive, but that's not what Quig heard. He's going to walk in, look for a pull, and eat a good bit of damage from Angry. That Merlin does not mess around. And a good pull in. Can you do anything here? Good damage onto this Arma. Cxnnah's gone.
But cost them a lot to do so. Ducky, Oathhh, Quig, and Dude Man Bro. All 4 of their ultimates used. And I've got to imagine at least 1 or 2 bombs from Crimson in that one, so not a lot.
Fire.
For this Oni Fury, have the Highland Ravens. The Ravens aren't going to go towards Fury, and they're not going to go towards Fire Giant either.
Wow.
This will just be a single pick and a Fury for the Eldritch Hounds. Highland Ravens now starting to rotate over, but it's too little too late. The window of opportunity is now closed.
Yeah, I think adapting made the call. Hey, let's go for fire. They walked up, saw Ducky, and they're like, or the wave. Like, maybe we could just go for the wave instead. Of course, the rest of his team was not there. Angry, Cozyx, and Coast were still on the way, but with the amount of crit that adapting has, you have to imagine that Fire Giant would have burned down very quickly, and that's why the Hounds made that rotation over as quick as they could. So Oni Fury goes down. Good opportunity there for the Hounds to continue closing up this gold lead. And now Quig has rose up to 2-0 as well. I mean, he is going to continue to climb. And finally, some pressure towards the shells. That's what we were worried about in game number 1. Cozyx has been on point with these walls. So many times the Hounds have made good plays, got walled off, got stuck out. This time around, Crimson and Quig picked up the shells, hoping those are both Phantom shells.
Not only the 2-0-3 for Quig, not only beads or shell pressure that's had to be put from Cozyx, but where did this 3-level lead come from that Quig had? I looked down, and normally at this point in the game, you're seeing supports more in line with their Cozyx level 13, 14, getting ready for Fire Giant. Maybe you got 3 items in the build. Maybe you're only 2 with full upgraded starter. Quig's level 17.
Quig's been a farming Freddy, you know? He's just been going for all the farm that he can find.
Look at the XP per minute difference, 140 between the supports. That is wild.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 kills and the 3 assists help, but I think he's just been grouped up with his team a little bit more. And now the Highland Ravens still do have incredible DPS. They've got double crit. This Fire Giant will burn, but you gotta watch out for the burst damage. And look how quickly it's going down.
It is absolutely melted. The Highland Ravens get the fire, but how many can get out of the fight? Cxnnahh finds a triple stun in the backline. Oathhh tried to get things going, and an excavate off the mark by Ducky. Bomb stun hits Cxnnahh. It's a charge in, but a triple freeze from Cozyx and a wall to block things off, but a massive gravity whale grabs a couple of players, but now it's Angry who strikes first. Dude Man Bro down. Ducky finds a push, but he's down. 2 adapting, a fully stacked rage for the Mercury. Quig walled off, and a bomb only on the VaporishCoast. Can Quig make it out? No, it's another freeze, but even better by Quig. This Atlas, despite how the team fight went, Quig pulled up massive this fight.
He pulled up massive, but how do you pull, I mean, 80% of the team into an Atlas pull and not get anything off it? Unfortunately, all the cooldowns were down and adapting. comes in from behind with a clutch ultimate. Dude Man Bro and Ducky still dead for quite some time. And it looks like that tier 2 tower over on right is where the Highland Ravens look next. They got worlds on the mind, and they want to make sure they get as much gold as they can, but here come the Hounds, trying to see if they can pick up any scraps from that last engagement. And they're not going to be able to find anything. Relic Graveyard on both teams. You got 1 or 2 available for each side, but that's about it. And the Highland Ravens, despite some fumbles from their earlier lead, are going to make it out with Fire Giant. They're going to make it out with 1 more tower to go through.
Only a single tier 2 tower left for the Eldritch Hounds to defend. Quig playing lights out on the Atlas still hasn't been enough for this team to turn it around. The Highland Ravens with a 7,000 gold lead. A complete different spot than where they were last game. They were down 7K. Turned it around and made it a 2-0 for themselves. Now it's the Eldritch Hounds on the back foot. Can Oathhh, his back stopped by the wall out of Cozyx.
He could have just ran.
And instead he'll go down. Ducky and Dude Man on the right side push out a tier 1 tower, but they're gonna need a full defense from the Hounds to stop the onslaught of the Ravens. This tier 2 tower will only last for an extra moment.
I mean, Oathhh was afraid of the wall, but I guess that was the smarter call in his head. Go for the back inside the fog, but Cozyx was not letting that one go. This left side bird is the target of the Highland Ravens, and if this siege goes bad, that Titan might be their next target.
Well, Phoenix down to a third. Bomb hits a couple. Ducky stunned, and the Gamma Ray Burst hits a few. Minions have shown up, and Coast will walk back in and leisurely take this Phoenix down to low HP, but it's not down just yet. Required Cxnnahh to go in, and a stun from Coast will set things up. Boulder, not gonna find anyone this time. Angry actually gets a burst proc of healing from that soul gem. Left bird down, the Highland Ravens back up.
That's gonna be it for the siege. And probably that's gonna be it for the Fire Giant. I mean, you grab Gold Fury here, but it falls off in 55 seconds. You're not looking to do any more pushing. Ducky doesn't have the upgraded teleport just yet, so someone is going to have to commit their body to clearing out these left side fire minions. Maybe Ducky can get enough off this Pyromancer to upgrade that teleport and then join these fights over for the Fire Giant next time, but it's not going to be enhanced. They've got plenty of time before that happens. I'm thinking it's almost time for the Eldritch Hounds to group up in the jungle and make a miracle play, because the actual even team fights have not been going too well. You still have Crimson and Quig going undying. Soul Reaver finished, all relics available. There are some shining rays of hope here for the Eldritch Hounds, but the gold lead just keeps climbing. Adapting's got fully stacked Rage, Wind Demon, and the Serrated Edge. A lot of DPS coming from this Mercury. Coast has been playing lights out the entirety of this set. Very few mistakes. Sure, he's 1 and 2, but 7 assists and top of the damage charts by a wide margin. And it's actually the Ravens grouping up in the jungle, making a miracle play. Crimson should spot this out and tell the team, hey, we got to defend Phoenix, guys. Get over here.
Well, Crimson's going to be the first one there. We'll find a stun on only Adapting. He'll dash away. The Highland Ravens, they'll pull off of the Phoenix this time around as the full rotation from the Eldritch Hounds have made their way in. Oathhh tried to wrap around the back, but was met by Adapting and the full force of the Ravens.
They're not leaving.
A lot of minions pushed up on the left side of the map. The Hounds have a little bit of extra time, but the Ravens are going to force them to waste all that time and effort.
Luckily, that wall misses. You don't have to lose the Phantom Shell before the Fire Giant siege even begins. And it looks like all members of the Hounds are heading towards fire. They're not worried about the fire minions. They need to find a fight now. And it looks like the Highland Ravens will give it to them. They're sieging forward. They don't want this Fire Giant either. Quig uses the pull in. Good stuns there from Crimson. They're W-keying in. They want the fight.
Cxnnahh loses out on the beads. Half HP on the Amma to start things out. Gamma Ray Burst used, but that's all ultimates down on the side of the Eldritch Hounds. Meanwhile, the Ravens have only used Cxnnahs in this case.
They got a
and
pull.
the Ravens can back away. Is this a window now for the Hounds to take the fire? Or are they going to try and keep forcing this fight? Another bomb stun misses
Getting baited
by Crimson, and they are just losing so much time, are the Hounds, by trying to waste around this Fire Giant.
The Ravens just want that fire wave to push in. They're not going to go in yet until they have to. The Hounds need to force fire or a fight, and it looks like Cxnnahh is going to give them the pick they want, but no one can finish it!
The Coast again steps up for the team, finds a triple stun from the ultimate, and this has got to be the call for the Hounds to go back to base. But now the Ravens Don't want that one to happen. Ducky is going to get caught out. Crit after crit. Wall after wall. The Highland Ravens will shut down the solo of the Eldritch Hounds. Ducky on the grayscale for 50 seconds.
Kana gets dazzling offensive soon, and that fire giant is getting melted. The Eldritch Hounds need to retreat. They can't defend anymore. There's so much crit. It's time to go back to base, and that will be the play. But can Kana chase down EruptCrimson? Remember, dazzling offensive is available. That's not going to be the play. You don't have Ducky for another 35 seconds, and the Highland Ravens don't have to worry about the left side bird. They want this right Phoenix.
The Hounds came into this event undefeated against the SCC. The Highland Ravens, the second seed of Europe, and the Highland Ravens will be joining Hex Mambo, their EU brethren, and a shot at the SMITE World Championship. We are taking not just 2 SCC squads to Worlds, Charlie. They're both going to be European SCC as the Highland Ravens 3-0 the Hounds shut down their undefeated and go to the SMITE World Championships.
Look at the pop-off from Coast and adapting. They're absolutely going crazy, as it's well-deserved. 3-0. I think a lot of people expected that the Highland Ravens would be able to take this. A lot of people may have expected it'd be a little bit closer, though. 3-0. I didn't see the Hounds in it for a second, except for last game, that 7K goalie they dropped. It was really confident performance here from the Highland Ravens. I think every single one of them deserves all the praise in the world.
In our only SCC versus SCC matchup of the weekend, it's to qualify one team to Worlds, and it's the Highland Ravens who come out on top with a 3-0. Both the Ravens and Mambo, the European representatives in this tournament, are the 2 teams that are going to be making it there. All praises to the Highland Ravens. The mental to bounce back from game number 2, so far down, able to bring this one back in. I mean, even talking with adapting the team out there, they're saying, man, we were down 7,000. We were already kind of maybe thinking about what game number 3 was going to look like.
Yep.
And then one small misplay, one misstep after another, they claw back through game 2. And now the dominant performance in not just games 1, but also in game 3. Highland Ravens, congratulations. You're going to the SWC. That's it for me and Charlie on the cast. We'll throw it to the desk to break it down.
I'm not sure if adapting either overestimated the Hounds or underestimated themselves, because remember he said, you know, I'm feeling like a 3-0, but the Hounds are a pretty good team. Could be a 3-1, 3-2. He always figured it would be a Ravens win. But 3-0 didn't necessarily cross his mind at the beginning of that interview. And man, it should have, because my goodness, the Highland Ravens, the weekend that they had here, Miff, so impressive from one of our SEC teams. You've got to go through a gauntlet of very difficult opponents. And the caster said it, the Eldritch Hounds didn't lose a game all phase all year long in the North American SEC. They didn't win a single game here up against the Highland Ravens. Very, very impressive, and adapting's back at Worlds.
Just the primary strengths of the Eldritch Hounds throughout the regular phase were dual lane and jungle.
Right.
And they were just outclassed. They were just outclassed in the duo and jungle. VaporishCoast, every single game, generated more threat and more pressure than should be humanly allowed. He was a complete distraction that the Eldritch Hounds could not ignore. And even when he was getting attention on him, he was just killing more people. He keeps sending people at him. It's like watching a Left 4 Dead game. He's just mowing them down as they walk in waves. Absolutely ridiculous performance from the EU ADC, as well as adapting. I would argue first 2 games, adapting kind of just handed the dub, right? Ban his Thor. Don't let him do it, because he's going to do that to you. But I gotta keep highlighting Coast, man. I mean, it is ridiculous what he accomplished today.
Didn't die in the first 2 games of this set. I'll wait on the stats for the 3rd game, but even if he died a couple of times, the KDA is still ridiculous. When he pented you, was that at Worlds?
No.
Was it not at Worlds? Or
Yeah,
was
I blocked him from that Worlds, actually.
Got it. Okay. I was wondering if it was going to be his first time back since pentaing you at Worlds.
Distinctly remember one thing about getting pented by VaporishCoast,
Yeah.
and it's his dad screaming at him the entire time. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, well, Coast going back to Worlds, a chance to find a penta there this time maybe, and he's standing by with J-Mac for the postgame.
Yeah, Coach, you go from penting Mifflin in regular season to now being at the World Championship stage. And remember, that was back in console days you did that. Now you're over here with the PC squad. And kind of talk about this. I mean, this is a team that isn't really at what we would call full strength. I mean, Angry's playing from home. You have a sub in the support role. Did you guys think that you were going to be making it to SWC with this squad?
I think we had more of a chance than everyone gave us. Most people said we had like 1%, which I think is honestly disrespectful, but I'm glad they got egg in their face now.
Now, kind of talk to me about game number 2, because that was not a great start, at least on the other side of the map from you. Kana was kind of getting owned over on the right side of the map. Then Quig makes one little misstep, goes to the blink taunt from there. At that point, is that where your team kind of just had that mental reset of, maybe we're not quite out of this game just yet?
I mean, yeah, it was 7k, I think, but we were always confident because our late game was so strong. If we just get 6 items, it doesn't matter if like 15k down. But their front line just wasn't playing with like their back line, I felt. So the fights were so easy for me to play.
And now coming into this one, we talked to Adapting at the beginning of the set. I asked him, how do you guys feel kind of going into the set? It's going to be a 3-0, 3-1. He said he wasn't too confident on the 3-0. Was he maybe the only one on the team who wasn't confident in that? Do you think that this was going to be an easy sweep for your team?
Yeah, he was just being humble. That's all.
Just being a bit humble from the king. Well, Coast, congratulations on the win. Congratulations on going to Worlds. The Highland Ravens, your second SCC squad at Worlds. We'll throw back to Des to keep it going.
Cannot wait to see what the Highland Ravens and VaporishCoast are able to get done at the SMITE World Championships. Just a few days away now. Adapting just being humble there, Myth. Likely in his head, according to Coast, knew this one was going to be a 3-0. I didn't predict it, but every team had a fighting chance in this one. I did not think we were going to be seeing a 3-0. I thought we might even go all 5. This is just a Highland Ravens team that got hot at the right time here this weekend. They're an incredibly talented team and absolutely deserve their shot at the SMITE World Championship. So look back at exactly what happened in Game 3 here, Myth. It was all kind of a blur by the end of it. I'm just thinking, my goodness, this is going to be a 3-0. And it felt like another full-on team win here, and it's Adapting off the Thor onto the Mercury. Still look good.
Yeah, just top to bottom, the Highland Ravens put on a show in this game. You could throw a dart and land on any one of these players. They'd probably say ouch, but any one of them that you hit just played incredibly well. Loved every single bit of it. And it's worth noting again, we've already talked about Coast, we talked about Adapting. Everybody got to see it evident and play on field how dominant they were. Angry's playing on ping. Angry's playing on ridiculous ping.
Yep.
And he's still hitting his shots. He's still positioning well. He's still timing the relics well. So impressive in these incredibly high-stakes games to be able to perform in a situation like that and to keep your head in it. I think just great. Cozyx as well, just facilitating a lot of those fights. The Ymir play in particular, I think probably one of his best performances in this set, goes undying, as well as also initiating every fight. It's impossible for supports to do that, just about, to start up every single engagement, but also never once pay the price for it. The Highland Ravens, they were just the better team today.
And Coast did end up dying twice here in Game 3, but was undying in Games 1 and Game 2. It was actually fun. I'm glad you bring up Angry and playing from ping and how impressive it is. He's still able to do top damage by exactly 100 over VaporishCoast here in Game 3.
Coast probably livid.
Right, pissed. The whole team got up and celebrated with one another. It was very funny there towards the end. Everyone's jumping around, super excited. Cozy then puts the headset back on, remembering that's where Angry is, and he's like, "Oh yeah,
Angry, we did it!
We did it right." Everyone I imagine Angry just sitting at his computer, like through the microphone, hearing everyone cheering and hugging one another and losing their minds, and just like waiting for someone to put the headset.
Someone tell me I did good, please.
And they ended up going back and congratulating him. Such a great story from this Highland Ravens team. Especially once the weekend started to unfold and the Ravens beat the Valkyries and the Hounds beat the Valkyries, and we knew one of these two teams was going to be going at least, potentially 2, depending on how the set yesterday went, but seemed destined that these two would meet in this matchup. I think the Eldritch Hounds deserve every ounce of credit, Myth, on what was a very impressive year from this team, because all year long they dominated the North American SCC. I'm sure as players they'll feel, the ultimate goal was to make it to Worlds, as it is for everyone, but if you look at this year holistically, this Eldritch Hounds team has a lot to be proud of. And that is officially it for Group A in the SMITE World Championship group stages. All knotted up nicely, and the Tartarus Titans and the Highland Ravens, the two teams advancing from Group A. Few sweeps here in this one, Myth. Only one set does not go the shortest possible amount, and it's the one game that the Hounds took off the Titans. And when you look at how the Ravens started their weekend, 0-2 against the Titans, and then you saw how the Hounds played against the Titans in that first game, I was wondering if maybe some people were starting to give the edge to the Hounds going into this final. Very close matchup, but the Ravens and their journey and their bounce back after a big loss, definitely admirable.
Yeah, I mean, I was a huge proponent of, I thought the Hounds were making it through,
Yep.
especially considering, as you said, their performance up against the Titans. It was a dominant Game 1 there. It was really a struggle, though, for the Titans up against the Ravens directly, barely able to eke out that 2-0. But the Ravens put up a shut-up, man. I just got to eat that L. The USCC clearly incredibly strong.
It came with something to play. Eldritch Hounds, where they won 2 against the Valkyries and then won the first against the Titans and 3 straight. I wonder if that slowed down some of their momentum here this weekend and made a difference going into today. That is Group A. It is done. It is dusted. We've got one more best of 5 set for you here this weekend, and it's over in Group B. And in Group B, we have already advanced one SEC team to the SMITE World Championship. And Myth, we've got 2 SPL teams battling it out at the end of the day here in Group B. It's the Oni Warriors versus the Solar Scarabs. The warpath of Hex Mambo has left these 2 teams on the loser side of the bracket, and now 1 best of 5, 2 SPL teams, and only 1 spot to go.
And a matchup that we've seen time and time again this year. Plenty of opportunities for these 2 to play against each other. Maybe a slight edge over to the Solar Scarabs just because there is more data on the Oni Warriors. Really, the only time we've seen this iteration of the Scarabs has been at this event, and I'm sure not exactly the performance that they would have expected or even wanted for themselves. But both these teams contenders to step up to Worlds. I wouldn't put it one way or the other. This could go either.
You know, it is really wild to me because coming into this weekend, Oni Warriors felt like the shoe-in from this group.
Agreed.
Right? And again, you still may, you know, we're sort of 50-50 on it. I'm sure a lot out there giving an edge to the Oni Warriors. But that could be past bias kind of leaking in here. The way these 2 teams have played this weekend, it's about how you recover from a loss to Hex Mambo. And it's all on the line now. Winner take all, loser goes home. Oni Warriors versus Solar Scarabs, 1 spot remaining at the SMITE World Championship. We'll find us a winner right after this.